Okay, whew. We are back in it once again. Sorry about the little extra weight there. Um, I'm just I'm just all out of sorts today. Um, yeah, so my parents are out of town, and they've asked me to take care of their affairs while they're gone, including the cats. So it's been a little chaotic here. I haven't had too much time to focus on things here at the production house. Um, Also, just totally dropped a shot glass last night right before I was going to go to bed. So that's a great thing that you want just before you try and rest and regenerate your mind to a healthy state. Is you want to go into a frantic paranoia, trying to get up every last single itty bitty molecule of glass off the floor. And wonder of wonders is I haven't gotten a splinter in my foot yet. So that was annoying, and then it's just a little bit of extra drama as well that I don't really want to talk about on the channel. I mean, we're not here to trauma dump. We're here to check out the new chapter of One Piece, where we're about to square up for round 2 of our big fight against uh, Saint Nerona Imu. Let me just make sure everything's taken care of. And I have not been spoiled too much on this chapter, although uh, one unfortunate little tidbit to which I am pretty like I had to scroll down because of I saw like some sussy ads, and so I got a little glimpse of uh, our cover. It's carrots. Everyone's favorite disappointment. For anyone who doesn't know, I mean, this was even before I started the channel. I used to be a big Carrot fan. Uh, I saw big things for her in her future, and then once Wana started Psychota, like totally just switched rails and didn't care about her at all, forgot about her almost completely, and then just unceremoniously dumped her from the story to the point that the Straw Hats don't even say goodbye to her, even though they have been together since Zoe. So that felt really dirty. And so I'm not exactly actually in it. And, well, I have mixed feelings, right? I'm happy to see Carrot. I'm not happy to be feeling all of the feelings that I am reminded of when I see Carrot. But yeah, so this is chapter 1181, A God and a Devil. Cover request: Carrot sings as she strolls over sleeping panda sharks at sea. Interesting. And here we go. Memories from 14 years ago. I'm the worst king in the history of ELBAF. You must kill me and take the throne, Loki. He was only 144 at the end. Giants usually live to 130. He died way too soon. You tricked my dad, right? Uh-oh. When streamer lighting's starting to flag, I don't know if you can see that. That makes you responsible for his death. The one suffered most from that inconvenience was Moo. Oh boy. Here we go. You ought not to have said that. Damn you. Back then. I don't care about how I'm remembered. That's not important. The only thing that matters is securing ELBAF's future. Isn't that right? Back then. What did you do to my father? What is up with the giant sword, by the way? Like, that is more giant than any sword that could ever be wielded. Oh, this is cool. This is pretty cool. Ragna Izuch. Oh, wow. With the little RAR XD squirrel face on it. Wow. Uh, Emu, this is a little different. Oh no, it still comes from his hand. I couldn't make that out. I thought it was coming from behind him, but instead of his normal like omen projectile that he did last time, where just like a little itty bitty little devil thing comes out and explodes, he makes like a big devilish wad and throws it at Loki, and that's pretty cool. That's a cool looking clash. I'm really digging the appeal of a projectile with a face on it. Big explosion, big butts. I can't believe he tanked that. What's with these black flames? What sort of power do you have? Uh, Omen is simply Mu's military might. What is going on? Is he like going like gear third in his own way? He's got like big Chungus Popeye arms. Gigantification. Oh, he's actually getting big. Okay, that's different. Its power dwells in all things. Interesting. He is still not as big as Loki, but still pretty bloody big. And now he's got his big demonic wad on his big glaive thing and has turned it into some sort of flail. This is going to be, I should have seen this coming. This is definitely going to be like a big action chapter. So, unfortunately, it's probably going to go by pretty fast. Whoosh, and then I don't know what's going on there. He's holding out some sort of T-shaped thing that has a flame on it. Nemesis. Ooh, and he makes like a big, cool. It's almost like an even bigger version of Mihawk's Yoru, and that one move that he does that one time. That is really cool looking. Yeah, he's not as big as Loki, but almost as big. Man, that move is like really cool. Strength is an attribute people naturally crave, and yet that craving can be easily satisfied via corruption. Interesting. It merely requires one to submit their will to a covenant. And now he's got a big flail. This guy's like a master of all weapons. Like, he can make any weapon, and we've already seen that to some extent with his little Necronomicon that he packs with him. But now he can just make them on the spot. By the way, Baja Blast today. I couldn't find my normal Mountain Dew. But this is good too. My parents hate it for some reason. They say it tastes like medicine. It really seems like a love it or hate it thing. Either it tastes like medicine or it tastes... Well, I don't know what it's supposed to taste like, but it tastes pretty awesome to me. Goes great with my fried chicken. That's why I'm glad that in my town, the Zaxby's and the Taco Bell are right next to each other. When their envy drives them, they'll achieve power. Power is the stated reading, though it uses the same kanji previously used for omen. Interesting. Those three things together form a trinity known as Dominion. What is this guy saying? It's a bunch of like mystical gobbledygook. Corruption, covenant, and omen. Those three things together form a trinity known as dominion. Corruption, covenant, power. Shall I grant thee the power of God? In one step thou wast to go far beyond humanity. I don't want it. So God's dominion, that's your power? It sounds more like a deal with the devil to me. Is there a difference between a god and a devil? Oh, wow. Oof. This is... Oof. Man, Imu is creepy. He's really creepy, dude. Like, in him is wadded up, like, all the things that I see wrong with society. Beats me. I just know I ain't gonna let myself be dominated by anyone. The world itself rejoices in a state of dominion. Isn't that right? Ooh. Oh, ooh, what? That's Joy Boy. That is Joy Boy straight up. The world itself rejoices in a state of dominion. Yep, that's Imu without the crown in his little shroud. And then that's totally Joy Boy with his hat and his, like, slightly wavy, curly hair. Oh man, I bet when Joy Boy finally shows his face, he's gonna be like super cute. Isn't that right, Joy Boy? What? Dang, and Imu is like pissed. I would not have expected. I have like very briefly seen this little panel right here, but I had not read the text. I just saw that it was a spoiler for the next chapter, and then I like averted my eyes. But yeah, I did not expect to see Imu make this face. But that face and that stance and that weapon, he almost looks like a leveled up Hannibal. Nom nom. Need more. Gotta eat more. I never felt anything like this before. Shoot, it's so heavy it's like I'm suffocating. What's with this guy's hockey? If I don't eat all this, we can't win. More, more. You still lost in thought? That tells me one thing. You're underestimating me. Ugh. Cough, cough. Oh, dang. Emu's like actually getting dinged up a wee bit. And then he goes back into the big, epic dragon form. Needhogg. Thorheim. Really hast returned. A fearless mountain. So Needhogg, in the same way that he has some sort of history with the Nika fruit, he has some sort of history with the Needhogg fruits. And so I'm kind of the assumption that this was like Davy Jones' devil fruit, maybe? Because the like Joy Boy and Davy D. Jones are like the two guys that Imu seems to have the most beef with. That and Lily / Vivi / the entire Nefertari family. Like, those are his big. And I think he also has it out for Poseidon. Because there's some, like, once upon a time there was something said about how, like, the two shall meet, and I think it was said that, or implied that it was going to be like Joy Boy and Poseidon. Not entirely sure. But I mean, that's the chapter, and yet true to my assumption, this is a very, not a short chapter, but a fast chapter, because again, that's just the way it is when you've got lots and lots of action and not a lot of dialogue. But I mean, it's cool. It's cool seeing a little bit more of Imu's philosophy, seeing his fighting style. It's good to see this fight get started. And I guess we're now officially in stuck piece because the number one reason why Luffy can't join this fight is because he needs to eat more. So we're kind of in stuck piece right now. But yeah, it was an okay chapter, better than the last one, I think. And from what I can tell, nope, wait, no, hold on a second, run it back, because don't we have Golden Week coming up? Golden Week, April 29th to May 5th. So I anticipate... Does Arlong Park say anything about this? Manga. Jump break next week due to Golden Week. Okay, so that does suck, but one of the good things about that is I feel like a lot of times Golden Week is only like kind of like half of a break, because it seems like anytime we come down from Golden Week we get the next chapter kind of early. So I'm not really sure how the streaming schedule is going to come down. For now, just don't. I would not plan on us coming back for the 3rd, maybe the 10th. But, that's the future. Presently, what I want to do is I want to check out some more videos. I don't know how long the stream is going to be, by the way. Probably not long. Just because I didn't have a lot planned. Haven't had the chance to plan. And so it's just been kind of tough. It's a good thing I saved some videos for this time. Because there were videos I wanted to watch last time, and then I was like, I don't know what next stream is going to be about, so let's just save that for later. Because last stream was already longer than expected, so... one thing that caught my eye, and we've seen this guy's videos before. We watched them last time, and they were pretty good. So this is... Let me turn this on. Turn this on, because, I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of, there's a lot of, screenshots and footage from the anime, and I know that Toei is, very fiercely guarded when it comes to that. Very, copyright strike happy, so I'm going to just not play too much with that. But this is, well, let me take this off very briefly so you can read it. It's ranking every One Piece foreshadowing by Nakama Gecko. And like I said, this is the guy we watched last time. We saw his video on every silhouette reveal, which was fun. Biggest fraud in every One Piece arc, that was also fun. Biggest Step Scales was not good. I did not like that video. It was just a lot of memeing. But I anticipate that this one will be, it'll be entertaining. Because this is actually something that I discussed briefly last, I think it was last stream, is that a lot of people, and especially One Piece fans, I think, have this really, really bad, annoying, obnoxious habit of confusing foreshadowing with reincorporation. If you take something from before that had no implication, and then you allude to it in visuals or whatever, that's that's reincorporation. That's not foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is like putting forth information that will be relevant in the future. And like, maybe my assessment is wrong, but foreshadowing is usually obvious. Like, it is borderline told to the audience that this information will come into play later. Whereas reincorporation is something that is usually completely innocuous and frivolous. And then, like, there's an allusion to it later, and people say, oh, it's foreshadowing. Oh, it is a genius. But, like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I anticipate already that I will not like this video. Actually, I was just looking at the thumbnail, right? And people always say this. They always say, "Oh, the silhouette from Sky Island looks like Luffy's silhouette when his Devil Fruit awakens." It's foreshadowing, even though it's like how is that foreshadowing? What, like, how are we meant to extrapolate that Luffy dancing and singing in silhouette would one day mean that he would gain the power of the ELBAF sun god of lore? Like, that's not foreshadowing logic, that's conspiracy theory logic, which is to say no logic at all. Or like this right here, like the ace tattoo. Like, I am of the opinion that this is not foreshadowing. That this is reincorporation. Because first, there's no reason to assume that, oh, Ace has this tattoo where it's spelled wrong and so the S is crossed out. Naturally, that means that he must have, like, a secret adoptive brother that was going to be a pirate, and then he got shot by a noble and was presumed dead. And so that tattoo is in memory of him. Like, that's not foreshadowing. That's just making stuff up. I always took it as, oh, it's just supposed to be funny. Like, the guy who's giving him a tattoo, he spelled ace wrong. He spelled it with S, and he crossed it out, and so it's just like a bad tattoo. But whatever, we'll see. We'll see. So let's go ahead and fire this. Well, before we fire it up, you know what it is. We gotta just remind everybody out there that Cross Stage Productions is not about, like, pirating or parasitizing content, from our fellow online entertainers. Cross Stage Productions is about curation and critique and discussion, and that's what we're here about. We're here to critique and discuss this video. So I highly suggest that you go and support this guy. Go ahead and watch the original. Don't just watch me watching his video. I don't think it's very ethical. You should support this guy. In fact, I'm going to support this guy right now because I liked his videos last time so much that I'm just going to go ahead and subscribe live on stream. So there you go. I just subscribed to him. But yeah, let's go ahead and man, it's hot. It's actually, like, really hot. Hold on a second. Let me step out here, and I'm gonna mess with the air conditioning. Okay. There we go. rare rare moment when you get a slight glimpse of what the outside of my bedroom looks like. It is cleverly blocked though, to where Chad is kind of blocking it. So I mean, I'm usually a pretty private guy, so I tend to keep that door closed. But yeah, we got the AC going. I am a very hot-blooded man. I tend to heat up very easily, and this is a very hot room, by the way. If I fire up like City of Heroes, like that's like having like a little fireplace in here. Honestly, I could really use some new fans from my PC. Whatever. Let's do this. Once again, it's ranking every One Piece foreshadowing by Nakamageko. Actually, hold on. One more delay. We got to make sure that that our audio is in order. Let's do this.
One Piece fans love to call Oda the king of foreshadowing, teasing events decades before they actually happen. The phrase Oda level foreshadowing has.
I think the number one example of this that I can think of is when he name drops Jinbei way back in Arlong Park arc, and then he didn't become relevant again until like Impel Down. That's huge. It has hundreds of chapters.
Transcended even the One Piece community. Today, I'm taking the role of a detective to find out if Oda actually deserves this title, or if he's just a big old fraud. Let's rank every major case of foreshadowing in the series. From the subtle details you probably missed, to the ones that made you fall off your chair in shock once you realized it had been teased 20 years ago. These are only gonna get crazier as we go on, so make sure to stick around. I'm willing to bet my non-existent baby brother that you haven't heard of this first one, cause a lot of people missed that the death of Ace was actually teased about 50 chapters before he ever got a job at Dunkin' Donuts.
What?
Before you start rewatching all the episodes, I'm gonna have to stop you, cause it actually happened on a chapter.
What are you?
I know, right? Kinda bold to hint at such a massive event.
No. I'm calling bull right now.
After 520, the crew is chilling, playing cards. But if you zoom in on Luffy's hand, you can clearly see the Ace of Spades, being the only card fully shown. And if you then look up, you see Death, also known as Brook. Yeah, this is a tiny hint, but no one can tell me this wasn't intentional. I promise.
I can. That seems like a huge stretch, like really huge. Man, I don't know about that.
At least one guy seeing this cover back then made the connection. Shout out to that one guy. Since it appeared.
Yeah, like, being retroactively proven right doesn't make you clever. That just makes it a coincidence. Like, come on, man. Like, by sheer statistics, any like weird shot in the dark conjecture could theoretically prove to be true. But that's just like sheer serendipity. That's not a cause for applause.
On a non-canon cover and happened only about 50 chapters before the actual event, it lands in B tier for me. More of a fun Easter egg than a masterstroke of plotting. Next on the witness stand.
Now, I will say this. Oda has gone on record as saying that from the moment Ace was introduced, he was planning on killing him off. And then, like, leading up to the moment when it actually happens, like, he was definitely writing it. And it was on his brain, and so that may have some, like, subconscious influence on the art that Oda is drawing, but that's still a stretch.
It's the legendary Chapter 1 Haki moment. Look, conquers Haki since day one. Gada is at work again. But as your detective, I have to ask, if Haki was formed in Oda's mind back in 1997, why did he wait nearly a decade to actually introduce it, let alone explain it? If this actually was intended as foreshadowing, it's the slowest burn in human history. We saw Mantra in Skypiea, which was...
Yeah, no, this is not This is not foreshadowing. This is a retcon. Okay? Like, at the time when that was, like, written and illustrated, I am confident that it was just Shanks being so scary that he puts the fear of God in even massive sea creatures. That's what that moment is. It's not foreshadowing. There's no reason to believe that it's actually some sort of secret power.
It's clearly a prototype for observation.
It's Oda taking ideas that he had kind of played with before, like weird, like out there sort of like miscellaneous concepts floating out in the power, like power structure, power system of One Piece, and then sort of like reorganizing them together under the concept of hockey. All right, this is a retcon. This is not foreshadowing.
In hockey. But then it went to buy milk and didn't come back for years. The biggest red flag though is CP9. You're telling me these hyper-trained elite government assassins didn't know how to use basic hockey? Did Crocodile train them?
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough, and also the idea that Crocodile can rise to the rank of Shichibukai, with like no hockey, just coasting on his Logia power. When Logia powers got power crept hard post time skip, like no, bro, no. There's no way this was planned out.
Or what? In my mind, Shanks' glare wasn't a planned tease for an entire power system. Instead, I think Oda had a rough idea of willpower being used as a weapon, whilst making the rest up as he went. So for that reason, this one lands in C tier for me. If that last
Yep.
one made you think Oda might just be a fraud, this might bring him back into good standing. Cause did you know that Sanji's past with Germa was actually teased multiple times? I'm sure you
I did.
did. You're a little One Piece expert, aren't you? But for the people that don't have a PhD in the manga, let me fill you in. We've got the first one all the way back in Alabasta, when Sanji chose the nickname Mr. Prince to play mind games.
That's no okay. A lot of people say this. That feels like okay. I don't know because or Jaya rather. Jaya was right after this, and that was the first like tangible, provable moment that Oda definitely had a little bit more planned for Sanji. It's a little ambiguous. It's ambiguous as to whether or not the plan was for Sanji to actually secretly be a prince, or if this is just a reflection of Sanji's personality, saying that he views himself as a sort of charming prince. Yeah, I mean, am I making any sense? Like, this could go either way. And because it could go either way, it's too ambiguous for me to say that it's really foreshadowing. If anything, it's probably reincorporation. It's probably Oda looking at this line and thinking to himself, what if Sanji actually was a prince? And maybe at this point he started like brainstorming it in his head, like how could I set this up in the plot? What sort of like setups or payoffs could I have for this revelation? Maybe he started workshopping it at this point, but saying that he had the whole thing like formulated in his brain this early on, like ain't no way, man. This is a guy who has admitted that he came up with the 11 supernovas like the week before they were introduced. Oda is absolutely guilty of making things up as he goes along.
With Crocodile. At the time, it just sounded like a tough but random nickname. But when we later found out about his royal status, he was obviously flexing on these absolute peasants. The next clue came in Yaya, when Nami found the book about Nolan. And
Yep, this one's big.
revealed that he was actually born in the North Blue, and not in the East like everyone thought. But I guess he wasn't ready to share all that trauma that day, so he just quickly moved on from it. Oda obviously had something in mind even back then. Otherwise, why would Sony just casually mention that? If we didn't get the North Blue reveal, the Prince nickname name could have felt more like a coincidence. But since we have both these hints, I'm sure Oda had a good idea of Sonya's past even back then, and placed these hints for fans to look back on later. This is the gold standard for long-term storytelling. It's subtle enough to ignore on a first watch, but undeniable once the pieces click into place. Straight to S tier. Let's play a quick
I would probably put it in A tier. I don't know.
guessing game. What's the name of this character?
It's chess. Chess.
It's of course Chess, the glorious vassal of Wapol. If you got it wrong, you have to subscribe. Those are the rules.
Too late.
Back to the foreshadowing. Next up is one courtesy of our favorite One Piece cyclist, Aokiji. Right before he turned the
Wait, so he didn't actually have anything to say about chess? Okay, whatever.
ice cubes at Long Ring Longland, he looked at Luffy and said, "You're just as reckless as your grandfather." Luffy looked genuinely shaken, probably got PTSD from all the times Garp spanked him. But before Luffy can even process the fact that this high-ranking admiral knows his family, Aokiji mentions that he owes that man a debt. Back then, we had no idea.
This is pretty good. This is pretty good because it forms like a nice bookend, right? This is the the beginning or close to the beginning of the Cypher Pulse saga, and then it closes out with us actually meeting Luffy's grandpa. And I was talking about the debt, then we find out he's probably going to talk about how Kuzan was like Garp's protege.
Who Luffy's grandpa was. Garp was shown in Kobe's cover story, but that was seemingly just another marine guy to us at the time. But that one casual comment from Aokiji paved the way for Garp to come crash.
By the way, in case anyone doesn't know why, Garp used to wear that stupid dog hat and then stopped wearing it altogether at some point. It's because Garp was originally introduced in Romance Dawn. Like, you saw exactly what he looked like. I don't think it was called Garp at the time. I think it was just called Grandpa. Like, you never got the actual name drop. And so this was a way of throwing off people who had read Romance Dawn so that they would not suspect that Garp is Luffy's grandpa. Because otherwise, like, if you saw this dude's face straight up, it would be a huge giveaway. It would spoil it for them, and then they would go and spoil it for everyone else.
Into the story 2 arcs later. It
Yeah.
was the first time we realized that Luffy wasn't just some little kid from Windmill Village. He had some serious high-level connections. His grandpa just happened to be the most famous marine in the world, and his dad just happened to be the most wanted criminal in the world. Nepo piece goes crazy.
Wait, hold on. Let's slow up a little bit. Like, Captain John had the same devil fruit as Kid. Like, Kid is not his child. I don't think so. And I don't know. Are these two related? I don't remember. He's such like a bit character. And then Caribou. I am consistently thrown off at how important Caribou has turned out to be. Because he was introduced as like a real punching bag way back in the day, and then he has managed to cling on long enough to actually be pretty important. And oh boy, did we ever get confirmation that Bonnie is actually Shamrock's child? I'm not sure that we did. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the SBS. I gotta look that up. Hold on a second. Like, let's put a pause on this because now I want to look that up. The SBS that I missed out on. Yes, SBS. Hello? What the? What? What? Oh my gosh. Yes, volume 114. Please and thank you. And wow. Okay, so the wiki doesn't have anything on it yet. Maybe try Arlong Park again? Manga? Uh shoot. Search. Oh my gosh. You can't even search without being logged. Okay. Dang it. Okay, that's just gonna have to be something that waits for later. But I am really curious because I heard it had some juicy stuff in it. Okay, back to it.
This tease is an example of good, clean writing. It made you wonder what kind of absolute unit Luffy's grandpa had to be for an admiral to be doing him favors. But it isn't some 20-year master plan that changed your life either. So for that reason, I'ma put it in B tier. Now we got one of my favorites. Just like the first one, it didn't happen in the actual story.
Yeah, people don't actually. A lot of people don't like the revelation that Luffy actually has, like this epic bloodline. People, I think, much prefer the idea that that he was just some scrappy rookie nobody.
Instead of a
And now knowing that he has like inherited a lot of his constitution and was kind of put like on easy street right away because of all these connections that have helped him get bailed out of so many situations, like it bothers people. And I suppose it bothers me to some extent, not as much as others, but like
chapter cover,
it was at the very least wise to make it clear that Luffy is very much on his own life path that is completely different from everyone who had come before him. Like, he wasn't the son of Gold Roger, he wasn't the son of any pirate. His father was a revolutionary, and his grandpa was a marine. Straight up, he's the only pirate in his bloodline. Yeah. Unless you want to count like the Greater D clan, but like I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Clearly the D's are not just one big family because that would uh, that would make Ace inbred, which would explain some things about his character. But like his dad and his mom are both D's, right? So they're not just one big family. What they actually are is one really, 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 really big family that has like branched out over the course of centuries.
we're moving one step up to volume cover with this one. Because for volume 25, Oda gave us this beauty.
Oh boy, this is about to be bogus. Yep, yep, we're doing this. We're doing the oh look, it's the four Yonko. We're not going to talk about this guy though, because he just conveniently does not play into the narrative.
Of a cover. Does it remind you of anything? If not, you ain't getting that One Piece PhD anytime soon, buddy. It's of course the current Yonko. Now this naturally leads to the question, was this planned all along, or is it just some freak coincidence? I think you could make arguments for both.
It's No, it's not foreshadowing, and it's not coincidence. It is reincorporation. It is Oda seeing. It's Oda looking back on this chapter cover, seeing that 4 of the current Yonko are in it, and then deliberately playing into that with the design of his new volume cover.
But I'm choosing to have faith in Oda here. If he didn't have big plans for these guys, why would he put Buggy on the cover before, let's see, Doflamingo, Sengoku, Mihawk, Whitebeard, and the most obvious choice, Vice Admiral Cancer? But why is this random digger Buggy Met included then, you might ask? Well, duh. Obviously he's next in line to become a Yonko. Seriously though, he must be the most random character to appear on a cover. Intentional or not,
Yeah, what's up with that?
if only these 3 silly guys.
I feel like Oda just he truly did struggle with how to fill out the negative space, and so he just included this random moment with this random character. I don't know. It's weird.
Knew the greatness that was waiting for them. I would like to put it in S tier, but if I gotta be a little objective, I would say A tier is the perfect home for it.
No, let's slow up a bit because you're not even showing that. You didn't even show the actual volume cover. Hold on, let me pull this up. Right. Open. No. Do 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 do. Volume covers. And then scroll down to where is it? This one. It's this one right here. No, that's not right. And then can we momentarily turn this off? No, that's not right. There we go. There, see? It's the same 4 characters. Actually, let me do you one better. Let me also pull up the specific volume cover that he's talking about. No, that's not right. There we go. That's better. Right. So it's the same characters in the same position. Buggy's in the same position, doing the same thing with his hands. Shanks is in the same position with the same expression. Blackbeard is in the same place. He's positioned a little better to where you can like see both his arms. And then Luffy, instead of being on like 2 barrels, is just kind of like jumping up. And then for the final bit of, well, the other bit of symmetry is obviously like the coloration of the logo and the background. But even like the square, like this is like more of a pinkish red, and you got pink right here. One little extra thing that they added was they've got a furry white creature in the center. Only instead of Sengoku's goat, which I don't, does this have a name? Instead, it's Carrot. No, like random 6 character in the background though. I think I would have realized that was a mistake. But yeah, that is pretty cool. Like I would not say that it's foreshadowing. Definitely wouldn't say that it's foreshadowing. But as far as like reincorporation goes, it is really cool. So anyway, let's get this resituated.
I would like to put it in S tier, but if I gotta be a little objective, I would say A tier is the perfect home for it. Next, we've got Lola's mom. At the end of Thriller Bark.
Oh, now this is huge. This is actually like really good. Where it is, this is clear, proper foreshadowing. It's setting something up, and then it becomes big later. Okay? This is foreshadowing. This is not a conspiracy theory, like a lot of stuff is in the One Piece fandom.
Big deal in the new world. She'll help you out. At the time, we didn't think much of it. It just felt like a way to transition into Luffy's card burning up and showing us that Ace was in deep trouble. But
No, because you see, you talk about that, right? The bit with the Viva card, like that was a big payoff, just like right there that you're just kind of skimming over. Is it was so long ago, like smack dab in the middle of Alabasta, that Ace gave Luffy this mysterious blank piece of paper, and you think, oh, maybe this is like a secret treasure map or something. Maybe it's like a national treasure thing. Maybe you gotta like rub it with some lemon juice or whatever, and then it turns into something. But this is the moment when we first find out what Viva cards actually are, and that the piece of paper Luffy has is actually a big thing that's gonna lead into another even bigger thing. And that's happening at the same time as this foreshadowing that Lola's mom is going to come into play at some point. Like, at that point, when you're learning that that little piece of paper is actually, like, ridiculously important, you also got to think that Lola's mom is also going to be important. Like, if this is the caliber of foreshadowing they're working with, then this Lola's mom bit is actually absolutely going to come back in a ridiculously huge way down the line. Like, I think, and this is Thriller Bark too. This was the payoff to the Laboon storyline, right? Well, not the ultimate payoff. We still have to wait for Brook to like actually make it back to the Twin Capes, but like, this was our first time touching up on that B plot, and we were touching up on it in a major way. So this was like foreshadowing central in terms of paying things off and then setting more things up. Thriller Bark was big in that way. Even though I don't really care for that arc as a whole, I would be dense to not admit that there's some like really spicy stuff in it.
For a decade, and it turns out her mom is literally Big Mom. The card ends up being a massive cheat code in Whole Cake Island, which is a cool payoff. But if I'm being honest, this one always felt a bit forced to me. If your mom is a Yonko, you don't just say she's some famous pirate. That's like LeBron's son saying, oh yeah, my dad is a baller, he's pretty good, you know. Like, no shit, she's famous. She's probably the most famous woman in the world. It feels like Oda purposely made her dialogue vague just so he could keep the mystery going.
You know what? You might be onto something, bro. Because, like, why wouldn't you mention that your mom is Big Mom at that moment in that conversation? Why would you skip that beat? Like, that's huge. How could you possibly think that that is not pertinent information? And it's not even like a Shanks situation where Big Mom just wasn't famous at the time. Big Mom has had an enormous bounty on her head since she was 5 years old. And she was part of the Rocks Pirates. And she had already conquered quite a bit of territory at that point. And was considered a Yonko. Like, a Yonko. One of the top 4 pirates in the world. Why would you not mention that at all? Why would you not tell them exactly who your mom is?
I really like the payoff, but the setup feels like a bit of a reach. So I think C tier will have to do for this. Lock in
fair enough.
And tell me when the smile fruits were first mentioned. If you said Punk Hazard...
No, it was Sabaody. Like the first visit to Sabaody. Like, you didn't get exactly what they were. Doflamingo just basically told Disco that like human trafficking is not our primary enterprise anymore. Now it's all about smiles. And without knowing what that was, just based on that context, um, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was led to believe that it was some sort of like narcotic, like it was some sort of drug, like a hardcore drug, like smiles. That sounds like a drug. Um, and then I guess at some point Oda decided that those were going to be artificial devil fruits,
Dress
and
roasted.
that they were going to be a big deal.
Or Wano, if your special needs maxing, you're wrong. Because they were mentioned all the way back in Sabaody, around 5
Correct.
years before they became relevant in the story. When Disco calls the Flamingo crying about the store getting wrecked by Luffy, the Flamingo, however, could not cry less as he proclaims slave trading to be dead. This is the era of the smile. He's really about spreading positivity, that Flamingo guy. Just kidding, he ain't referring to normal smiles. Rather, artificial devil fruits that rely on slavery and rob people of their emotions. If we
Yeah.
focus back on the
What was
actual
that
foreshadowing,
illustration? Oh yeah, that's the part in Dressrosa with like the old evil king.
and rob people of their emotions. If we focus back on the actual foreshadowing, I think it's great. It's perfectly vague since no one had a clue what smile meant in that context. It made you really curious. A boring writer could have easily made him say the future is in trading weapons or something lame. It's good, but nothing crazy either. For me, this one is an A tier. You all might
I feel like that is foreshadowing and reincorporation in equal shares. Like Oda was foreshadowing something without necessarily being 100% certain what it was going to be. That's kind of what I get from that.
disagree with me, but I don't think Ace's tattoo with the crossed out S for Sabo is good foreshadowing at all. I've seen some people say it doesn't stand for
Good,
Sabo because of this meme, and yeah, I get it. The other
good.
memes on this are a bit
This is terrible. This is really reaching. That's awful. This is conspiracy theory nonsense. Look at this. This is not even the right screen. I know this. Like this is not the right. No, no, yes. This is awful. This is not foreshadowing. Shut up.
outrageous, but unfortunately the S stands for Sabo. On the cover of chapter 596, we see the three brothers reunited as adults, and his tattoo now only reads Ace without.
Yeah, that makes sense at that point. But when Ace first showed up, like there was no reason to believe that it had ties to like a secret third brother.
The S. I got a question. If your brother passed away and you got a portrait of him tattooed, would you then say, oh, it needs to be crossed out since he died? It's such a bad tribute.
No, no, dude, no, that's not. See, now we're getting into like layers of confusion and misinformation because, like, this is a bit of reincorporation that Oda did, where later when he decided that Sabo was going to be like a thing, that there was going to be a third brother and his name was Sabo, like he decided that his name was going to start with S, and as Jolly Roger was going to be his first initial with the crossbones over it. So the misspelled Ace, which at the time I am confident was just supposed to be funny. It was just supposed to be like a dumb bad tattoo. Later retcon to be a tribute to Sabo's Jolly Roger.
It looks like Ace didn't want anything to do with him, like he had a bad ex named Samantha or something. It doesn't help that I don't have that much love for Sabo. I've always maintained that he's a replacement for Ace with less personality. The tattoo doesn't make sense, and I never got excited for Sabo. This land.
Yeah, Sabo. Sabo's kind of like I don't know. He feels a bit like a Gary Stu, just a little bit. He feels like Ace, but with a less interesting design. And he's got Luffy's eyes bolted on, which is honestly kind of haunting. Like the big wide eyes with the little beady pupils on Sabo, just for whatever reason, that does not make him look cute the way that Luffy looks cute. It just makes him look scary. And in addition to being a replacement for Ace, I also feel like Sabo is low key a replacement for Dragon. Like it really does feel like at some point, Oda just decided that Dragon was not an interesting character and not a viable avenue for like expanding the world building. He preferred the idea of writing like a younger, more idealistic and hot blooded revolutionary. And so now we've got the situation where Sabo shows up out of nowhere, and he's a revolutionary. And not only is he a revolutionary, but all at once he is a more popular, more effective, and more charismatic revolutionary than Dragon ever was. Like, Dragon has kind of been like. He's been sort of like quietly dropped from the story. He's been throttled. He's been like shadow banned from One Piece. Because it didn't do anything. And at this point, it's getting hard to imagine that he ever will do anything. Like, he's just boring at this point.
Indeed, there for me. We have arrived at the most famous case of fortune.
But then the attempt to replace him kind of backfired to me because Sabo isn't terribly interesting either. Like, the Revolutionary Army as a whole is not very interesting. I think the most interesting character is Ivankov. It's like the only revolutionary character I care about. The revolutionaries as a whole are like one of the weakest, least interesting factions in all of One Piece. Like, I care more about the Lords of the Underworld than I care about the revolutionaries. I care more about the worst generation, care more about the Shichibukai or former Shichibukai as it were, the Seraphim, the Gorosei, the Yonko. Anybody. Really anybody more than the revolutionaries. They're such a weak presence. They're an idea that was introduced too early, and now we've waited so long for them to do something that they are now completely like overcooked. They've just been sitting in the oven for way too long, and now they're just completely inedible. They just leave a bad taste in everyone's mouths. They're just really stupid and pointless.
In One Piece. During the absolute chaos of Wano, we found out that Luffy wasn't just some regular old rubber boy. He had in fact eaten the mythical Zoan human fruit model Nika.
Okay. For someone who is hailed for his foreshadowing, this is epically bad foreshadowing. It's who's who, like, basically trying to speed run foreshadowing, where he spends almost his entire fight scene running his mouth about something that is almost completely unrelated, in order to make it not feel like the retcon of Luffy's Devil Fruit, in order to make it feel like it doesn't come out of nowhere, which it does. So that is some foreshadowing that just straight up failed right there. That's bad. That's really bad.
I know the Pirate Folk residents are probably typing a manifesto right now about how this was a last-minute retcon, but the hints in Skypiea are actually insane. This is where the Sun God is first name dropped.
Yep, even though that's a completely different Sun God from a completely different culture, not connected to ELBAF at all. Like, Nika is very specifically the ELBAF god of the sun, and not the Skypian god of the sun, or the Shandoran god of the sun. it is the ELBAF god of the sun. So that's like a huge stretch. It's a huge stretch, and also just like the idea of a sun god is pretty ubiquitous in ancient civilization. Like there are lots of sun gods out there, lots of them. There's just like no.
That Shandian flashback. The parallels Oda was cooking with are too good to just be some retcon. Luffy punches through Enel's giant storm cloud, and the sky literally opens up with Luffy right in the center, at the exact same time as Skypiea is praying for the sun to shine. If that's a coincidence, then I'm gonna surpass Mr. Beast in subscribers next month. My favorite part, however, is the
Yes, it absolutely is a coincidence. Like the idea that everyone is praying for a miracle from God, and then the hero of the story is like the shining, he is portrayed in the shining heavenly light as the answer to their prayers that they've been looking for. That is such a ubiquitous concept to say that is specifically foreshadowing this specific thing that Oda clearly came up with way, way later. It's such a massive stretch. Like, come on, man. This is not foreshadowing.
bonfire silhouette. Luffy was casually hitting the Nika pose 20 years before the reveal. Some haters will try to tell
Yeah, but like Nika as a whole had never been established. We never saw that silhouette. There's no reason like there is no ability to reasonably conclude anything from this like innocuous panel.
you, Oda just scrolled back through his old volumes, saw a cool drawing of Luffy, and decided to build the biggest twist in the story around it. But even if he did, to have that specific panel sitting there for 20 years, just for it to pay off in arguably the biggest moment in the entire story so far.
No, it's not a payoff. Reincorporation isn't about payoff. You're missing the point.
It's the perfect long game. I don't care what they say, this is so very S tier. Thank you so much for watching until the end.
L take, my man. That is terrible. I was actually kind of digging this this video for the most part. Like he got the good ones, but then like he totally flubbed it at the end. Like that is not foreshadowing. It's not foreshadowing. Also, what the hell that he didn't even mention that Jinbei got name dropped in Arlong Park. What the hell that he didn't even mention like the whole thing with Laboon and the Rumbar Pirates and Humming Brook and all that. Like what's all that? Unless he's planning on like a part 2, let me watch this.
Make sure to comment you forgot about Pearl to confuse all the people that didn't make it here. Also, YouTube thinks this video is perfect for you. Give it a chance, why don't you?
No, like you, Pearl. First off, I don't even know what meme that's supposed to be. But second, like you missed the big ones. You missed Jinbei. You missed Brook. Come on, blood. Like, ugh. I mean, I still enjoyed watching the video, so like whatever. But yeah, okay. Now the next video I want to check out. This is from. This is from a channel called Mahalik Pops. I can go ahead and turn off the transparency on that. Yeah, so this is something we were going to watch last time, and then I decided to just save it for next stream. But yeah, I've been suffering from some serious like BTT6 burnout lately. Like I just haven't been feeling the fever like I used to. I've been slowly getting back into it. Just like little bit at a time. And so this piqued my curiosity. Because, I don't know, it just feels like Ninja Kiwi has always struggled with map balance to where there are just certain maps where, like, there are beginner maps that don't feel like beginner maps at all. There are, like, advanced maps that don't feel like advanced maps at all. They're just kind of all over the place. So, I'll be curious to see what he says are the hardest maps and how much they line up with fans. Um, this is a very well, not very long. It's like 26 minutes long, but whatever. Let's go ahead and fire it up.
Previously on this channel, I
Oh, that's loud.
List, which is a collection of some of the hardest maps in all of BTD6 from the community. But did you guys catch?
From the community? No, please don't tell me this is about community maps because I don't care about community maps.
Some of the hardest maps in BTD6, not the hardest maps, and that's because there is actually a tier above the expert list named the map list. This is where you go to suffer, but in a fun way. The community curates this list of the 50 hardest custom maps, ranked from the hardest to easiest.
What?
Than any Ninja Kiwi made maps, and today we're going to start episode 1 of conquering the map list, starting with.
Okay, now cancel this. We're not watching this. I thought this was going to be about the actual hardest maps in BTD6, not fan-made maps that I don't care about. And the whole episode is about just this one map? That's boring, man. Boo. No, I'm not watching this video. That sucks. Whatever. I'd much rather watch this one. So we've checked out Andy M. Lee on this channel before. I think it's absolutely a blast. He's talked about like superhero costumes. You know, those videos were a lot of fun. If we can just like scroll through those real quick, like. Yeah, like, and I wish this was not open by default because you guys don't need to see my subscriptions. Like, they're not horribly embarrassing or anything. Like, it's not like I'm subscribed to Coco Melon or anything. But, like, I don't know. It's just not something you need to know about. But, yeah, like, this was great. This is, like, the last one we checked out. Like, rejected character designs are sick. His tier list for, like, the Batman character designs was actually pretty ass, but like I still enjoyed it. Like superhero costume trends, like I feel like these are pretty awesome. Like bad comic book art, that was good. The guy just makes like really fire content, and so I've been subscribed to him for a while, and so this definitely piqued my interest because I remember watching the 2000s CG cell shaded animated Spider-Man because it just looks sick. Like I absolutely adore cell shading. Like I absolutely love like Beautiful Joe or like Champions Online. Like I mean that's Champions Online, but like I liked the cell shading, and so naturally I loved it when City of Heroes introduced a cell shading option. So I thought the look of this show just absolutely popped in a huge way. I thought it was excellent. It was a bit of an anomaly though, because this was from MTV, and I'm like why? Why MTV? Out of all things, like not Disney. Disney didn't own Marvel at the time, but like not Disney. Not Fox, which was like airing like Spider-Man Unlimited at the time, I think maybe, or like just none of the obvious options. They went with MTV. It's like, okay. So that was weird. And the other thing that I remember about this show is that it left a horribly bitter taste in my mouth because it ended on it just ended on a sour note where it's Peter Parker decides that he's going to give up being Spider-Man, and so he throws his costume into a briefcase and throws the briefcase into like the the New York Harbor, and then that's it. That's the end. That's the end of Spider-Man, folks. Spider-Man just gives up. Terrible. Like it completely ruined the entire experience for me to where I gave away my DVD copy. Probably should have kept that though. That's probably worth some money now. But yeah, it'll be interesting to revisit this. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Spider-Man, the new animated series, was weird by Andy M. Lee.
Have you ever wished there was a fourth Raimi Spider-Man?
Actually, wait, hold on. I might wanna put my filters back on. Because I don't want Sony jumping down my throat about like that should be fine. I don't know. What if we did it like this? This should be okay.
Project. Well, you're in luck because back in 2003, Spider-Man, the new animated series premiered, intended to act as a sequel to 2002 Spider-Man.
Wait. Let's take it from the top.
Have you ever wished there was a fourth Raimi Spider-Man project? Well, you're in luck because back in 2003, Spider-Man, the new animated series premiered, intended to act as a sequel.
What year was it?
To 2002 Spider-Man.
Also, let's like go ahead and full screen this. Huh?
So today we'll be breaking down a few aspects of the show to see. Project. Well, you're in luck because back in 2003, Spider-Man, the new
2003.
to act as a sequel to 2002 Spider-Man 1. So today we'll be breaking down a few aspects of the show to see how well it fits in the Raimi universe using the Raimi integration scale. I had seen this as a kid through its DVD, but I revisited the whole series just for this video. So just for some background, the show was originally meant to be based on the original Ultimate Spider-Man comic series by Brian Michael Bendis, and he was even brought on to be a writer for the show. They got character concepts done, they made a pilot episode apparently, but eventually the whole thing was reworked into acting as a sequel to the first Spider-Man movie because,
I mean, even though in its prototype form, it's looking pretty fire.
was really popular back then, and if I had to place a bet on which show would have turned out better, it probably would have been the one based on the Bendis run, and no, I'm not biased because that is one of my favorite ones of all time.
Yeah, well, that would have played really nicely into the Ultimate Spider-Man video game, which, again, that's the one that I picked up almost entirely based on the cell shading, but then I played it and I hated it. I just thought the gameplay was like super clunky, especially when you had to chase after dudes, and those levels were just really poorly designed to where they were almost impossible. There were points where you just had to like you were forced to be very, very far away from your target, and if you got too far away, you lost automatically. You would lose your target. It would say game over, start over. So being put in these situations where like you have to almost lose in order to win was very frustrating. I hated it. I thought it was very poorly designed and just really just clunky in general. Like, I don't know. The gameplay just wasn't there. And like you just can't you can't coast on style without substance. I mean, I remember jumping into Soul Eater, very different topic, and it's anime versus video games. But I remember jumping into Soul Eater based purely on the opening, when I decided that the character designs were fire, the background design was fire, the entire aesthetic was fire, the music was fire. Then I open it up. The characters and the story very much not fire. Not fire at all. Water. Murky, gross, algae-infested water.
Maybe they were both inevitably meant to be cancelled after one season because this show premiered on MTV. you know, the TV channel that focuses on music. I mean, since it wasn't a kids channel, it did allow them to be more frisky and more bold with their blood and violence, which I appreciate because that is a change of pace for a Spider-Man show. And when people get hurt, you know what I appreciate? This video's sponsor, ZocDoc. Towards
Yeah. While he goes over his little sponsor spiel, I just want to say it is funny going back and realizing that's the reason why Morbius, even though he's a vampire who feeds on blood, like they gave him these dumb little suckers in his hands, and he's always talking about like plasma, is because it had to be like super G rated for little kids. You know, even though Man Spider was like absolutely spine-chillingly horrifying. So, typical, just twisted values from like the FCC. But what can you do? Other than burn our non-functioning society to the ground and build a new one. Kidding. By the way, I'm joking. Cross-Stage Productions does not advocate violence of any kind.
Or you can click on the link in the description if that's easier. Thanks, ZocDoc. Now back to the video. So let's get into breaking down the show. Let's start off with Spider-Man and his amazing friends and spoilers for this 20-plus year show. Neil Patrick Harris plays Spider-Man here, a role that he would have...
What? Are you serious? I never realized that. Dang.
He gets better as the show goes on. He definitely wasn't trying to match Tobey Maguire's voice, which is fine because he's not a super professional voice actor, and I doubt it was something he was directed to do.
Do you want to tell me who you really are?
You keep your fucking voice down.
He's definitely more confident than he is awkward. Like, if you watch the show, you would assume that this Spider-Man has been Spider-Man longer than Spider-Man 2.
Oh my gosh. Look at this. No. We're not going to just roll past that. Look at this show, man. Look at how slick it looks. If I can just turn this off for a second, that is so cool looking. Like, it looks so clean. Or like,
This Spider-Man has been Spider-Man longer than Spider-Man 2.
or like this shot. Like, I just,
Assume that this Spider-Man has been Spider-Man longer than Spider-Man.
this is why I love cell shading. Like, this could have come out today, and it would still look absolutely fire. Like, this is awesome. This looks straight up better than another CG Spider-Man show that also came out recently.
Neil Patrick Harris also makes his voice lower.
Like the one that actually came out recently, markedly worse than this.
The show being completely animation, this Spider-Man is obviously more agile and more athletic than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. In terms of Peter Parker's life, he does go to Empire State University, so we do get a full view of his college experience, something we didn't really get to see much of in Spider-Man 2. If you recall, at the end of Spider-Man 1, Mary Jane confesses his love to Peter, but Peter's like, nah, we can only be FRINDS because you get hurt if I'm Spider-Man.
Man, I'm so glad that we've got the opacity turned down, because clips of OG Spider-Man, Sony would hate this.
1 year ago. Also, Peter's kind of hoeing this. There's this new original character named Indira, aka Indy, who acts as a pseudo-girlfriend sort of in the later half of the season, and Peter just bounces between Indy and MJ. Like, what? Honestly, I like that the show focuses on his love life in a more mature and complex way rather than simple high school crushes, which was definitely the goal because...
Man, I gotta say though, these character designs are so of their time.
Fun fact is the reason why Aunt May does not appear in the series apart from one photo cameo. That being said, this Peter Parker / Spider-Man...
Like, these are so Kim Possible, really. Like, if Kim Possible, if they ever decide to make the jump to like CG, it would probably look like this. Now that I think about it, now I kind of want that.
They wanted an audience of cool young people, which, fun fact, is the reason why Aunt May...
Sorry, I just want to run back why. So they wanted to be cool, so they didn't want Aunt May in there? Wow. Even though Aunt May was one of my favorite characters in the movies.
A lot of media adaptations miss nowadays because they make him into some sort of genius level engineer. I get that's how he is in the comics, but I feel like this level of intelligence for Peter makes him so much more real to me. So other than his love life and his personal characteristics, if we're going to talk about how well the Spider-Man fits in the Raimi-verse, we gotta talk about the ending. So Spider-Man is facing off against a pair of twins who have the ability to brainwash and mind control and shit, and Spider-Man is tricked into choking out Indy and letting her fall to her death. Like, Okay, she's not dead. She's in a coma. So after this fuck up, which wasn't his fault, but okay, the public turns against Spider-Man, MJ turns against Spider-Man, and Peter's like, fuck this Spider-Man shit.
Yep, there we go. That's the end of the series.
Depressing ending for a Spider-Man show. I mean, I know the show was cancelled prematurely, but still. I like the Spider-Man. After I finished the show, I couldn't help but wonder if we'd see the Spider-Man in Beyond the Spider-Verse. I mean, surely, right? Alongside with Taz Spider-Man. Mary Jane in the
What?
show.
That's not... No! No, shut up! No, that is... No! No! Foul! Foul! Boo! That is not Taz Spider-Man. That is clearly Spectacular Spider-Man. You fail. Unsubscribe. Like I'm not actually gonna unsubscribe, but like I'm honestly kind of tempted because like, how do you miss that? How do you miss that so bad? That is not Taz Spider-Man at all. Not even close. Not the same colors. Not the same build. Not the same costume. Not the same nothing.
Mary Jane in the show also goes to Empire State. So clearly,
Cut. Freaking embarrassing.
Same as Billboard model and play actress MJ from the movies. However, MJ does have this little side plot running throughout the series where she's trying to work on her acting career. So she's not just
She needs to work on a freaking egghead. She's looking like Megamind over here.
the recurring plot of her acting journey makes her feel more three-dimensional. In one episode, they do a side plot of Peter continuously missing out on MJ's plays, just like in Spider-Man 2. But this show came out a whole year before that movie, so you know that's pretty impressive. But this is not all to say that she doesn't simp over Spidey.
Dang, I'm not sure I ever realized how old the series was. I thought this was after Spider-Man 2.
But she's also lusting over Spider-Man whenever he says
Yeah, when Spider-Man love was actually peak.
if you're chasing someone and they're not getting anything back, and you get saved by Spider-Man and you get a chance to hook up with them, I think we're all gonna dabble a bit. They also do reference the iconic upside-down kiss from Spider-Man 1.
Well, sure, there was that kiss, but it's not like...
And at this point, I really do get surprised whenever they reference specific scenes like that. They also reference the fact that MJ and Harry...
Yeah, that's weird because like this is such a different Spider-Man in like every way. I would never associate this with the movies. This just feels like another Spider-Man.
which I don't really think you can call what they had dated, but sure. There's also a mention of MJ's parents fighting all the time back when she was a kid, which is something we saw in Spider-Man 1. And while that does kind of help with the immersion, this MJ is still completely different from the Raimi MJ personality-wise. Movie MJ is more cute and vulnerable, but this MJ is more cool and confident. I'm not saying Raimi MJ wasn't cool, I'm just saying if you were a cool person, you wouldn't cheat on your partner in every movie you're in. So let's talk about the final piece of the trio. It's Harry Osborn. Harry obviously...
Yeah, that's probably the wildest thing going back to those movies today is realizing just how much of an absolute hoe MJ is.
James Franco, like, at all, but we'll address the aesthetics of this show later in the video. So, like MJ, Harry is also a student at ESU for some reason. Honestly, this is closer to the comics because these three actually do meet in their college era, and plus, I do like having a solid trio of friends in a base environment. Harry doesn't have much to do in the show. His main thing is...
Man, that is such a weird design for Harry. He looks
Yeah, they reference that several times in the show. When they wrote
he looks more like he should be Flash.
So when they wrote this, what
Honestly.
possibly hope that Harry's character development would have been without fucking up his actual character in Spider-Man 2? Well, it's not like people who watch Spider-Man 2 are guaranteed to watch this series, right? Also, I really wish we could have gotten this show's adaptation of the final fight scene in Spider-Man 1 between Spider-Man and Green Goblin, because I think that would have been really cool. And plus, this Norman Osborn does not look like Willem Dafoe at all. Harry basically just is minor side on the Oscorp board or getting with some chick. He's not a standout by any stretch, but you know, he's pretty chill. Some would say too chill, to be honest. Like, this Harry is way too chill for the dramatic ass Harry we see in Spider-Man 1 and 2. That's not to say that I didn't like this Harry Osborn. I always thought that this Harry Osborn, he was a...
Yeah, but then Harry in the movies is like he's too much the opposite. Like he's way too tilted. Like there are just way too many obvious questions that Harry in the movies should be asking that he's just not.
Minor metal. Other side characters, first one, J. Jonah Jameson. Not only does his office look completely different, but his voice sucks ass.
Well, it's good to know there's the occasional human in your viewfinder.
This was the only voice acting in the show that notably broke my immersion.
I wouldn't say it's bad, but like it's no. Dang it! Why can I never remember the name of the guy who plays J. Jonah Jameson. Um, well, what's the fastest way that I can like find out? Let's look up Invincible. J.K. Simmons. But then that's tough. Like you're not really gonna top that anytime soon. That's a tough comparison.
I don't know if it's because I was expecting a J.K. Simmons-like voice, but it just sucked. Indira Daimonji. She was okay. She was an original character, so I don't really have much to compare her to. She's an up-and-coming reporter, so she does share some interests with Peter Parker. Like I said, she doesn't die, but I think she would have had to be eventually written out of the show, right? Like imagine seeing India appear in Spider-Man 2 and everyone's like, who the fuck is this? As a kid, her character annoyed the fuck out of me. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the hairstyle. She just annoyed me. So for Spider-Man and his
Well, she's also got those ugly ass granny glasses.
a 3 on the Raimi integration scale. Yeah, they refer to specific events from the first film, but it really is not enough because everyone's personality is pretty different from the film version. But now that we've covered his allies and friends, let's address the villains.
Oh dang, that is a fire looking lizard. I also know this has a really cool looking Electro in it as well.
Villains in the show are original characters, which really bothered me as a kid, but now that I'm watching it as an adult, it still bothers me. Like most of the original characters are pretty lame, no offense to the writers, but since most of the villains are characters we don't see in the first Spider-Man film or the second one, I think there's a pretty good chance that they'll score higher on the Raimi integration scale. The first episode has a villain named Turbojet, and while the design is okay, you cannot tell me that you can see this happening in a Raimi Spider-Man movie. I'm pretty sure this is based off that one
Why is there that one little bit of his outfit that's not covered? Why not have the helmet cover the entire just have it cover his entire face. Don't have the one little sliver right here. Oh my gosh, that's so annoying.
and he speeds through. I don't know.
His super speed looked like arse, by the way. It was terrible.
It was meant to be Quicksilver. Yeah, I don't really see color. So. Second villain is Kingpin, who's voiced by Michael Clark Duncan, who returns from his role in the Daredevil.
Oh my gosh, I did not remember that. The Daredevil movie version of Kingpin is in this? That is wild.
Pretty solid job, and I still think that Daredevil movie and the Raimi movies can coexist in the same world. And if you think that this Kingpin is some normal-ass Kingpin, that's where you're wrong, buddy. This Kingpin has a staff that shoots energy beams, releases gas, fires at shurikens. Good luck MCU Kingpin trying to outdo this one. I wish
Wow.
the character returned in the grand scheme for the season, but that's one of my main issues with the show. There is no grander plot for the entire season. With the exception of a few episodes, you can pretty much tune into any episode and be completely clued into what's happening. And guess what? That's exactly what MTV relied on because they broadcast these episodes in a seemingly borderline random ass order. So the DVD episode order is completely different from the broadcast order, and depending where you
What?
watch the episodes, you're getting one or the other. Another example of wrapping up a character too quick.
Okay.
Connors, aka the Lizard. First of all,
I mean, if it's mostly just serialized, I guess that's not too bad.
Dick, and he has no family, which is, I feel like, one of the main aspects of his character, and his entire plot just relies on getting revenge on Oscorp. Which, now that I think about it, is pretty much the Lizard from Amazing Spider-Man 1, but somehow that movie did it better. Second of all, I'm probably the most with the character.
I guess I'm not invested enough in the character of the Lizard to know all the ins and outs of like his personality and his motivations and his modus operandi and stuff. Like he's just, to me, he's just a big lizard scientist guy. But like okay, his design is fire though, and that's really as much as I ask for from the Lizard is that he just looks cool.
Dr. Kurt Connors,
He could still use like the lab coat though, and not just be like a naked lizard. But okay.
Spider-Man 2. And not only that, now before I was like, oh, I wish some of these characters will return in the grander scheme, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, at the end of this episode, the Lizard falls to his death. Not even joking.
Wow. Okay.
So unless he's also able to grow back a beating heart, him being in Spider-Man 2 doesn't really make much sense. And killing off the Lizard in general just doesn't make much sense. Like, why would you do that? Also, I guess it's kind of cool that this episode builds more history and lore with Oscorp and Norman Osborn performing more human experimentation trials to enhance the human body before the Goblin Serum. But yeah, I could have sworn that Lizard appears in more than one episode, but nope. And after the Lizard, we get a streak of original characters acting as the antagonists of the episode. Shikata, a woman who's actually old but gets powers from the moon and her sword. She actually fucking decapitates.
So she's like a mashup of Katana from DC, but also Vulture. She's even green like Vulture. What's going on here?
The guy and MJ discovers the head, thinking the guy is just lying on the floor, and nothing. No trauma or anything, seeing a decapitated fucking head on the ground. Shikata's actually not a bad idea for a character, but I don't really see it working in a Raimi Spider-Man movie with the whole magical stuff, but in a movie time video game, yeah, I think
That and just like a little too edgy. Like, no.
the Pterodax. Talon is basically Black Cat. She's a super athletic cat burglar who actually dates Harry for a bit. In a case like this, I'm like, why couldn't they just use Black Cat? Was it a
Look at this Aeon Flux looking character design.
It just feels so weird to me. The Pterodax who are former KGB, but the main guy has a British accent for some reason. They are named after pterodactyls because they fly. That's it. Again, they look like goons from a Raimi Spider-Man time video game rather than an actual Raimi Spider-Man movie.
Oh my gosh, what was that? That looked like the worst video game ever.
Who gets obsessed with Spider-Man and
Oh my gosh, is that an actual? Oh my gosh, that's an actual character design. What is going on with her hair?
this episode was really horny.
I know, solitary trade inventing. You wouldn't associate it with someone so verbal like me. Trade inventing.
As an idea,
But why is she scratching her arse?
interesting analogy for celebrities.
No.
Speaking of analogies,
Stop it.
a villain, a victim of bullying, he becomes a school shooter. I mean, Electro. This is literally amazing.
This is oh, that Electro is not as cool looking as I remember.
Before Amazing Spider-Man.
What is that hair?
The frat guys prank him, and they pretty much almost kill him. I don't know what hazing culture is really like in American colleges, but as an outsider, most of those stories sound fucking insane to me. Max loses whatever aura he had left at a party, and he becomes Electro for maximum shock. Get it? Because Max is able to shock people. Thank you. So the ringleader of these fat guys is named Doug and is also a piece of shit. So when Electro comes back, he just straight up kills him. Honestly, no sympathy for me, and frankly, I have no idea why Peter, MJ, and Harry are standing over his grave as if he was some fucking saint. Electro comes back in a later episode as even more of an insult to try.
Oh man, stop showing me that picture of Electro. Oh my gosh.
Good by Spider-Man, and they do kind of show that that's the true end for him. Like he's not coming back. At least he got more than one episode. I could see this Electro working pretty well in the Raimiverse, to be honest. It comes from more of an empathy.
Okay, he doesn't look as bad in motion, but that picture, like stop.
The conversation about bullying and teenage subcultures was still very much at the forefront of American media because of Columbine, and I assume this episode was meant to reflect that in some sort of way. And the fact that school shootings in America have just become more and more frequent since then, but we get less and less media exposure and analogies about it. Bit of a problem, I'd say. But anyway, next villain is a scientist who comes up with a drug that makes people way more smarter, but it's actually kind of deadly. So who else would it be used on other than Flash Thompson? Putting the visuals aside, I could actually see this plot working in the Raimiverse if that Raimi Flash Thompson somehow made it into ESU, because the plot was kind of funny, I guess. Like Flash is really smart and shit and is rizzing up MJ because, you know, he has a brain now. Notable Spider-Man associate Silver Sable, she makes an appearance in an episode and reappears in the finale. She does stick to her anti-hero roots. She's like, oh, I only kill bad people for money, but I'm also gonna kill you, Spider-Man, because you keep fucking things up for me. The Silver Sable character is actually a character I think would have fit really well in the Raimi Spider-Man movies, but it's really hard to compare because Raimi Spider-Man...
Man, there's a lot about this that I don't remember.
Mercenaries, only bank robbers, and supervillains. That's why for some of the previous ones, I was like, I can't really see them in a Raimi movie, but only in a timed video game, because Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he doesn't really face off against any high-tech organizations or anything. Next villains, as mentioned before, we get the Gaines twins. I think that's their name, but...
Oh man,
I don't think the possibility of mind control...
those character designs are cooked.
Spider-Man movies, but, you know, I'm kind of on the fence for that. Craven is a character that I think works
Craven.
really
Yo, that's a fire-looking Craven. Oh my gosh.
that could have worked back then. Also, it's interesting to know that in this show, Craven and Spider-Man already have...
I really dig that Craven design.
Spider-Man for putting me in the gulag, and I was like,
Oh man.
This Craven is definitely more toned down compared to his comic book counterpart. And to be honest, the show never really explains who Kraven is and his whole shtick. Like, they just assume that you know who he is. But overall, I think Kraven works. Like I said before, the only people we see Raimi Spider-Man take on are bank robbers and actual fucking supervillains. And most of the villains in the show are kind of just...
Man, I don't remember Craven being in that at all.
His whole story,
I can't believe Craven got his own movie.
But other villains like Pterodax, just forgettable. I give the villains a 6 on the Raimi integration scale. So yes, I do think for the most part they would fit into the Raimi universe, except Dr. Connors, because, you know, he fucking dies in the show, but he's alive in Spider-Man 2.
The visuals.
Fully CG animated superhero show, believe it or not.
Wow, really?
I really believe that. If you told me that this show was made more than 20 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, sounds right. Listen, I would love to be like, dude, this show's animation has actually aged so well, but let's be real. It has. One aspect of the visuals that the show does pretty well, though, is the lighting. They're pretty creative with it, and the night scenes look proper dramatic.
Oh yeah, cell shading is fire.
Fair comparison, it probably isn't, but I'm an Armored Adventure.
I mean, people who know me know that I'm basically married to cell shading.
Just came out 6 years after this, and it looks infinitely more polished than this show. I think the comic cell shading style that they wanted to achieve in the show was done right with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. The only characters that look remote...
What? But isn't Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, like, isn't that one of the worst animated shows ever?
similar to their film counterpart is Spider-Man and Jason.
Also, the washed out collar is like, no.
Everyone else is basically an entirely original design. The Spider-Man suit is basically the Raimi suit, except the eyes are more McFarlane-esque rather than just straight up triangular. Even the webbing on the suit is shiny, which is the detail.
I'm very outspoken against the McFarlane style, like giant eyes, but I think this version of Spider-Man, it hits like a sweet spot for me, where they're big, but they're not too big.
Peter Parker is basically Tobey Maguire if Tobey Maguire went on a diet, plus magically restructured his face to become more slim. Maybe I'll do a character design ranking for the show in the future, because there are way too many to cover. While watching the show, I couldn't help but think that this looks like a video game cutscene from the 2000s. Like, I half expected a PS2 controller to spawn in my hands.
Yeah, you know what? In terms of the actual animation, in terms of like motion and action scenes, it is a little stiff and floaty. I get that.
Appearing in the top corner of the screen whenever there was an ad break. Overall, the visuals of the show is getting a 4 out of 10 on the Raimi integration scale. Yes, they look pretty decent in the show, but in terms of integrating into the Raimi universe, a bit below average. The only thing that's visually matching is Spider-Man, and even that's not a perfect translation. Alright, the final thing we have to address is the tone of the show, whether it fits within the Raimi Spider-Man movie. Like I said before, this show was on MTV, so they had more lax rules about what they could put in the show. And since they're trying to make it all sexy and aim for teenagers and young adults, you can definitely see them try. Like, they make jokes about hickeys and threesomes, and I don't remember anything like that in the Raimi Spider-Man movies. Like, we literally see Indy walk down from Peter's room in the morning like, okay, Peter, we get it. I only counted one swear word in the entire show.
Your midterm. Her midterm is a real bitch.
But still, whoa, wouldn't see that in Spectacular Spider-Man. In terms of violence, yeah, if you couldn't already tell from what I mentioned about the show, it does get pretty violent. Spider-Man gets cut up quite a bit in the show, and a fully battle-damaged Spider-Man only appears in the final episode, but yeah, there's a lot of blood. I mean, what other show are you seeing hands get sliced off and people getting stabbed and heads being decapitated? I don't think there's many others. I think just story-wise, not to do with like blood or anything, but the fact that Spider-Man fucking chokes out his love interest and then just drops her from building to another building, bruh. And yes, he was kicked into it, and I thought that she was fucking dead. Okay, like, what normal human is surviving that kind of drop? Even half that height, just landing on your fucking cranium, you're gone. Okay, anyway. So while I do appreciate the more mature look into Spider-Man's life in the show, we gotta focus on the topic at hand, and it's how well it goes with the Raimi Spider-Man movies. And the answer is, it doesn't. Not really. I mean, the Raimi Spider-Man movies do have some adult themes going on, but definitely not as much.
See, he keeps grading this in terms of like how much it fits in with the Spider-Man movies. I can only see this as its own thing. So I just don't think it's fair.
4.25 out of 10. Wow. It's clear that the premise of this show being a sequel series to Spider-Man 1 was something that Sony wanted, but the creatives were like, Okay, sure, we'll do that, but they kind of just did their own thing.
Well, originally it was supposed to be more of an Ultimate Spider-Man thing, yeah?
I'll probably give this a 6, maybe, or a 7. Shut the fuck up. I know if the show didn't get cancelled, the creator wants to do villains like Mysterio and Vulture and focus more on Kraven, but...
See, bringing Vulture into the mix would be weird at that point because we already had a very Vulture-type character.
It does get kind of bloody, so it is a bit tonally confusing, that show, but overall, season 1 was really good, so I am looking forward to season 2.
It was? I heard tons of people complain about it.
Spider-Man and Marvel in the early 2000s, like just having Michael Clark Duncan Kingpin in the show, that's pretty wild. And if you want to see me talk about him in depth, I did talk
Oh my gosh, what was that drink that Kingpin was like? It had like a mountain of whipped cream on it. Okay, that was an okay video. I mean, I suppose I'm biased because I really do just love cell shading that much. And I didn't mind, like, the tone seemed fine. It was just doing its own thing. The character design I mostly loved. I don't know. The one thing that trips it up for me is the just the ending where he just gives up on being Spider-Man. I thought I heard that they were going to make a second season at some point, but then that just never happened. I'm not even talking about the initial plans for the second season where it was canceled. I'm talking about like a revival well after the fact, and I guess that just didn't pop off. But I've got a couple more videos I want to check out before we call it quits. So, folks who checked me out in December, they might remember that I went to go see Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, which was awesome. It was like the hotly anticipated definitive version of Kill Bill instead of being all split up and censored and lots of like cut stuff going on. It is exactly as Quentin Tarantino intended. And it was amazing. I went to see it with my dad, and we had an absolute blast. The one thing about Kill Bill that trips me up is that David Carradine really chews the scenery, and he plays, the titular Bill, the main villain. So the fact that I don't entirely enjoy his portrayal of the character is kind of a black mark on what is otherwise an exquisite movie. But, I mean, it's still fire. I would recommend it to... I would recommend it to just about anyone. Unless maybe you're a little squeamish about, like really intense action. Like, because this does get kind of gruesome. This is like people getting bitten by snakes, and like one woman gets her eye pulled out at one point, and then Uma Thurman squishes it under her foot. Because we gotta get feet in there, because Quentin Tarantino. So action does get intense. But I still think most people will enjoy this movie. And the more you love martial arts movies, the more you'll love this movie because it is such a love letter to the martial arts genre as a whole, with like so many like classic martial arts tropes, very purposefully and like lovingly recreated. So obviously I get a lot of mileage out of it. Me and my best friend Jaren, we've watched more than our fair share of martial arts flicks in our time. So Kill Bill is pretty big to us. I enjoy it very much. He was actually the one who introduced me to Kill Bill. Like, I was somewhat familiar with it in the past, but The first time I sat down and watched part 1 and 2 was with Jaren, and so hearing about all the little rumors about the whole bloody affair for years and years, and then it never came out, and then finally, at the arse end of 2025, it finally came out in theaters. Like, I wanted to see it so bad. I was so glad that I did. The reason I bring this up is because we've got a video to watch. It's from Rick Worley. Every change to Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, it's more than you think. It's about 23 minutes long. And I'm very curious about this because some things I know about, but it's been so long since I've seen the original versions of those movies that I don't entirely remember all of it. So I'll be interested to see. Because initially I didn't even remember the scene with the crazy 88 being all black and white. Because they were too squeamish about, the blood. So let's make everything black and white instead, because for some reason that makes it better. Who knows how Hollywood works. But, well, I mean, I guess the short answer is that it doesn't. That's why, like, Hollywood as a culture is falling apart. But, yeah, I'm very curious about this video, so let's go ahead and fire it up.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh boy, and do we want to put, like, no, we don't want to put a filter on it. Let me just turn this down. This is really loud.
So I'm sure if you clicked on a video like this, you probably already have a basic idea of what Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair is. But just to quickly explain to make it clear which versions of the movie I'm talking about in this video, Kill Bill was originally written and shot as one movie, but because of its length, it was cut into two halves, and it was released in 2003 and 2004 as Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. So then Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, is the title it's been given to the reconstituted version that reassembles both halves back into the one movie that they were conceived as. But the differences between the versions are more complicated than just putting the two halves back together with an intermission between them. Because it was originally conceived as one movie, in order to make it work as two halves and two movies, there were several important changes made. And so when it was reassembled, those changes were undone and some footage was removed. There was also, in addition to that, an issue with the original release.
Removed? I'm not familiar with that.
Several changes were made due to censorship. And in the new version, those changes for the most part have been undone to restore it to the original version of the movie. There is
I'm so glad that there's like so much less censorship going on these days. In movies, in video games, for whatever reason, that's become a very Puritan scene.
Also, some footage that was put back in that was trimmed out of the originally released version, presumably for length. But then on top of that, there are also several other changes.
I will say that the extra anime scene that people were like super hyped about is. I feel like leaving that out was somewhat justified because it was very drawn out.
Additions that have mostly flown under the radar.
Like, I loved it, but I loved it in spite of like how like overly indulgent it was.
Alternate version of Kill Bill had long been discussed and even screened in a limited capacity. So I was always curious about what exactly had changed, but for some reason, other than the few major changes which everybody has talked about, it was hard for me to find anything really comprehensive that went into all of the changes made. So once we finally had both versions available for home viewing, I decided it would be interesting at least to sync up the two versions and go through shot by shot and to see exactly what was done.
I kind of want to get that on Blu-ray.
There is also a version that was released in Japan, which has some but not all of these changes that I'm talking about, but it's still a version done in 2 volumes instead of done as one movie, so it's kind of in between the two versions that have been released in America.
Weird.
For clarity, I'm just going to compare the whole bloody affair version to the version previously released in America and note all of the changes between those two and not make a separate list of which changes are and aren't in the various international versions. So first I'm going to go through the major changes and talk about how exactly they were done, and then I'm going to get into the several other differences between the versions which I think might surprise some people. So one change that I'm not really going to go into is the Fortnite sequence that was added after the end credits during the whole bloody affair theatrical release. I'm not going to count this because it's not really a change to the movie itself. I know that people weren't crazy about this sequence, with some people going so far as to say that they wish it had been added because it ruined the whole movie for them. The scene does have a few interesting details that explain things in the movie, most notably the explanation of what happened to Beatrix's pussy wagon. But the scene was cut before they ever filmed it during the original shoot, and so it was never properly filmed with the original actors. If they had filmed it
What?
at the time and properly worked it out, and
Hold on. Slow up. I didn't see this at all. I didn't know there was more. I wish I had seen this. Oh my gosh.
they might have turned it into something good. But as it is, they've just made a fairly quick and cheap animated version to give you an idea of the scene. Uma Thurman does reprise her character with her voice, but that's the most notable part. So yeah, I mean, this sequence is of lesser quality than the rest of the movie, but also it wasn't actually added back into the movie. It was put after the credits, just as a bonus to give something extra for people who paid to see the movie again in theaters after they probably already bought it at home multiple times. So I think giving them something extra is, it's a nice gesture. If this scene had actually been included back in the movie in this form, then yeah, that would be a problem because it's not as good as the rest of the movie. But it's not back in the movie, it's a bonus. So whether you like this scene or not shouldn't be part of how you evaluate the movie itself. So then we get into the actual
Okay.
movie itself.
Already being like thrown for a major loop. But I did not know about that at all. Boy, I wish I had seen that.
Probably notice if you know the movie well is the quote on screen at the beginning of the movie has been changed. Originally there was a card which said "Revenge is a dish best served cold," which is a quote with older origins, primarily French. But in Kill Bill, it's attributed as being an old Klingon proverb, which was a nerd joke that I liked at the time because I was a nerd and I got the reference to Star Trek.
Huh.
It was a fun joke, but maybe, I don't know, Tarantino felt it was a little needless or silly, because now instead he uses that shot to dedicate the film.
I didn't remember that.
As the movie starts, if you compare it closely to the Blu-ray version, which is the version I'm using here to compare, you'll find that the colors are noticeably different throughout, the yellows being warmer and the blues being more saturated, which is actually important for this movie because yellow and blue are used so strongly throughout. Whether this is really a deliberate change or it's just the result of a new release format isn't really clear. The Blu-ray colors weren't terrible, but they seemed to suffer a little bit from the toned-down color palettes that were endemic to a lot of Blu-rays, and I'm willing to bet the colors on the new version are just more true to how the colors originally were intended, and rather than being an intentional change or revamping the movie's look. The colors now probably, I would guess, look closer to the original theatrical release than the colors on the Blu-ray. But either way, in some scenes, different.
I'm gonna go ahead and say the colors in the whole bloody affair are better. Just looking at this like side by side footage, and I always thought of Kill Bill as like a very vibrant movie. So more color the better, I think.
Striking when you look at the two versions side by side. And I said I was going to mention every difference, so it's worth mentioning. Another change from the Blu-ray that you might notice is that here in this version, the subtitles are hard-coded in the image rather than being generated by the device you're watching with. I understand the reason for having subtitles that aren't hard-coded, because if you're watching a version in a different language, you have to either have a different version of images or have generated subtitles over the hard-coded subtitles, which can be distracting. But in movies that are carefully visually designed, like Kill Bill, the subtitles are a visual element that's considered like every other visual element, and the font and color placement.
No, wait, hold on a second. Look at this. This is the whole bloody affair on top, and volume 2 is on the bottom. Now it almost feels like the opposite. Like, let me turn this off so you guys can see better. Now it seems like the colors in like the original version are more vibrant. What's going on with that? That's a little weird. I don't know about that.
Subtitles are purposeful and shouldn't just be replaced by whatever your TV generates. In Kill Bill especially, the subtitles are designed to complement the visual aesthetic of the movie. For the most part, the bride's dialogue and other dialogue in Japanese is subtitled in yellow and black, which complements the aesthetic of the movie and also the bride's outfits. But in other cases, the subtitles are in different colors. In Gogo's flashback, they're green, and when Sophie speaks French, they're white. Whether there's a deeper meaning to these...
Wow, I never noticed that. That is such a fine detail.
particular scenes. Either way, these are intentional creative choices, and they should be part of the movie, so it's good that this has been restored. So now let's go into...
Yeah, only in the flashback does it seem like only in the flashback with Padme does it seem like it's the opposite, where the colors are now more washed out.
to the movie. Since this wasn't originally written or designed as one movie, when it was split into two movies, that necessitated changes to the end of the first part and the beginning of the second part. The new cliffhanger for the first part was largely constructed with footage already shot for the movie, repurposed there at the end of the scene with Bill asking Sophie about the bride. For the second movie, a brief scene was added at the beginning with the bride driving her car, speaking to the audience, and basically quickly spending a minute to drop you back into the movie, since originally that point of the story wasn't meant to be the start of the new movie. Both of these pieces have been removed in the new version, obviously. That's not much of a loss, honestly. With the rest of the two parts in there, the cliffhanger...
Yeah, and also, like, the biggest... I'm sure he's going to get to it in real short order. The absolute biggest thing was Kill Bill Volume 1 teased, like, a massive development that was to occur in Volume 2. As a cliffhanger to get you interested in Volume 2. And that was completely cut in the whole bloody affair. So that to me is the actual biggest difference. The fact that the really big plot twist that happens at the end of the movie. You saw it coming if you saw the end of Volume 1. If you watch the whole bloody affair, it completely blindsides you. In a good way, I think.
Become mostly redundant. But of course, there is one thing here that, when it's removed, makes a major change to the effect of the second half of the movie. In order to create a cliffhanger to end the first volume,
Yep, true. True enough. Here it is right here. So, I mean, if you haven't seen Kill Bill, like, major spoilers, better to stop watching right now.
Tarantino added a new voiceover with Bill revealing that Beatrix's daughter, Bibi, had survived. When this is removed, that means that the viewer doesn't find this out until Beatrix does when she arrives at Bill's house, ready to kill him, and she instead finds her daughter. I hadn't realized before that this revelation at the end of Volume 1 was added when the movie was split into two parts, so I hadn't considered how the second half would work without this information. But now that I look at it that way, it seems so obvious that that's how the movie was intended to be.
Yep. It is pretty much unanimous. Like, I've been reading up on, like, comments. It is unanimously agreed that this change was for the better. And I gotta agree. Like, yes. Very good.
Revelation before was a cool cliffhanger that got a gasp in the theater back in 2003. But when you view the movie as a whole, finding out about Bibi when she gets to Bill's house is massively more impactful. Not only is it a better reveal of Beatrix's daughter, but not knowing this information subtly changes the whole second half of the movie, because you still think Beatrix has lost her daughter and that she's alone in the world, and that the daughter was another of the victims whose death she's avenging. It adds a different color to everything she's doing in the second half of the movie if you don't know that. And since, of course, I've known this movie for over 20 years before seeing the whole Bloody and Fair version, I can only try to imagine...
Over 20 years! Bruh, that's how old these movies are. That is crazy.
Like to watch the movie not already knowing this information, but to have that
dude,
right at the end when she confronts Bill for the first time in the movie is such a sucker punch, and to have the audience trying to process all of that during the following scenes when she's talking to Bill and Bibi, wondering how she's going to react, and to, as an audience, be learning that as she learns it, as opposed to having almost a year in between movies to process it before she does, that's just brilliant structurally, actually. It really makes the ending of the movie so much stronger. I know when the movie was in two parts, the first part needed an ending, but now I wish the cliffhanger had never been added and I could have seen it this way the first time I saw it. If you do have friends watching the movie for the first time, please, I would say give them this version, because I think it'll definitely have a hugely different impact. So I'd call that change the biggest change in terms of story in the movie. The biggest change in terms of screen time is a new 7.5-minute scene that's been added to the animated origin story of Owen.
I can definitely see why they would add this. I mean, obviously they put a lot of effort into it. It would suck to have this cut. It's just... I'm not sure if it was entirely necessary. It's cool at first, and then it kind of like carries on and carries on and on and on, and I don't know.
Yakuza assassins involved in killing her mother. On the whole, it's probably not necessary, as we already got to see her killing boss Matsumoto, so, you know, we get the idea she's killing these people to get revenge, and it was probably a good cut to leave this scene out originally. I don't think we really do know for sure whether it was put back in here now because Tarantino always wanted it in and just left it out before for time, or if it was put back in just because it was a completed scene they had, which could add value to this new version for people who had already bought the movie. But either way, it's not bad and it doesn't ruin anything. It does add a bit more of an explanation of how Oren went from a little girl to becoming an elite assassin. And there is also another interesting character detail here in that it reveals that the short sword Oren has is one of the only things she had left behind from her father. This adds something to the little moment later on before she fights Beatrix when she pulls out that sword and gives it a quiet look. Now that you know where she got the sword, you can infer in that moment that she's remembering her father and his murder, and how she was set on the path to a life of violence that led her to her final confrontation with Beatrix. I like that little detail, actually.
I don't remember that.
The movie here that's now over 4 hours with an intermission. Why not add in a few more minutes and, you know, a little assassin girl slaughtering some Yakuza? It's worth it for the character detail that you get, and it's, you know, it's entertaining. The next major set of changes have to do with the editing that was done to Volume 1 due to censorship. There are a lot of small edits, but the biggest difference that people will probably notice, of course, is the whole section of the House of Blue Leaf sequence that was previously in black and white is now in color. It was originally supposed to be in color, but it was changed to black and white to appease the MPAA for the stupid reason that they somehow believe blood is less offensive if it isn't in color. I've never understood what the logic to that is, but it's a long-standing thing in American film censorship. One of the reasons Hitchcock shot Psycho in black and white is because he could get away with more blood.
Wow, really?
Found the same blood unacceptable if it was red instead of black. Another famous example is how they made Scorsese desaturate the color in the last scenes of Taxi Driver, as if the scene is somehow not bloody now, when it's the same blood, but it's a slightly more brownish color instead of being bright red.
Wow.
They've done to movies for a long time. Obviously, in the House of Blue Leaf sequence in Kill Bill, there's a lot of blood. Tarantino paints the whole set with it, but that's the point. It's supposed to be paint. It's an aesthetic decision to visually illustrate the explosion of Beatrix's rage as a red geyser that paints everything in her path. Changing it to black and white doesn't make the scene any less gory. The same amount of blood is still there, and it's a stupid demand on the part of the MPAA. But it does change the Technicolor aesthetic overdose that was essential to Tarantino's visual representation of his character's journeys. So it's important that the color is finally put back here. There's also one editorial change that was done to
I'm sorry, is this for real? Did it start out in color and then just all of a sudden randomly when she pulls that dude's eye out, that's when it switches to black and white? That's terrible.
accommodate the shift from black and white. In the previously
Wouldn't it make more sense for it to be black and white from the very beginning of the action scene all the way to the very end?
version, Tarantino holds on a shot of Beatrix's face as she looks around the room, and then changes back to color from black and white on her blink. This is a good little way to motivate the change back to color, which was otherwise done just for censorship, and which would seem random on its own. But without the change to black and white, the blink is no longer necessary. So the second half of the shot there has now been replaced with a different shot of the bride. The change to black and white for that
Interesting.
is the most major censorship change to the movie, but there are actually
Cool,
4
actually.
changes that were made to the first movie. Ostensibly,
I mean, you try to be as creative as you can be while still cooperating with the people that are, you know, that you got to cooperate with in order to get your artistic vision out to the public, right? And I suppose that can lead to some, you know, as they say, art through adversity. The number one example I can think of is Batman the Animated Series, where one, it led to the introduction of impact frames where they didn't actually want kids to see anyone getting, you know, decked in the face. So instead of actually showing the moment of contact, they'll show like right up to that moment, and then there'll be like a flash of black and white, like one frame that's all black and one frame that's all white, and then it'll come back to the action immediately after the impact has already occurred. It almost like King Crimson's over to the other side of the guy getting decked. And a lot of people actually like that flair, and I kind of do too. Although it does taint it somewhat to know that it was crafted not out of genuine artistic inspiration, but out of necessity. And then the other thing is the two very different ways that the Joker dies in Return of the Joker. Where ironically, the one that was censored, I thought was more gruesome. Like the uncensored one is just Robin like shoots Joker in the chest, and then that's it. It's over. Like very pedestrian. We're all used to gun violence at this point. It's very normalized. But the idea of Joker getting pushed back and breaking a bunch of vats of conductive fluid, and then as he tries to right himself, he accidentally flips a switch and electrocutes himself. Like that, I honestly thought was like way more gruesome.
Down violence, and which have now been restored in the whole body of their version. So I'm going to quickly show each of these edits now. The one most people noticed was an extra moment in the last scene of the first half, showing when the bride cut off Sophie's other arm. It clarifies what happens to Sophie, and it's not any more gory than several other moments that are left in the movie, so cutting it out the first time is kind of pointless.
Okay, I thought there was a reason I didn't remember that. That's because it wasn't there. Okay.
You know, it's good that it's back if it's not a huge deal. Once you look closely at exactly what was cut and wasn't cut, you'll find that in typical MPA fashion, most of the cuts are completely nonsensical. Several of the little pieces that were cut out are markedly less gory and less bloody than many of the moments that were left in. But the way the MPA works is that they just want to exert their authority and prove that they're in charge, and if they make the filmmakers cut out something, they can then claim that they did their job of protecting the delicate public by making the movie toned down from what it would have been without their, invaluable service.
Oh my gosh. So I actually started watching this video before deciding that I wanted to save for stream, and I noticed this this comment down here, and I thought it really like this what the guy says here. It's like, yeah, so where is it? Okay, this is it. From the Mexican Kitchen, he says, I heard Matt and Trey did a similar thing with South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. Every time the MPAA asked them to remove something, they swapped it with something worse. And the MPAA were okay with it because they felt like they did something. It really does come down to that kind of like shallow reasoning. It's not even always about actually honoring the spirit of the MPAA and its endeavor. It's more about them just feeling important and like they did something, and that's it. Like, bro.
Talked about how when he thought they'd ask him to edit a movie, he would deliberately put in something unnecessary that he didn't need.
Man, I just want to say, this guy has like, and let me turn this off. This guy has an epically flat nose. Like what happened there, man? Was it just like right after he was born, he managed to turn himself over and they accidentally left him face down for too long as like a baby? And so he's just like that forever?
About how when he thought they'd ask him to edit a movie, he would deliberately put in something unnecessary that he didn't need, so that when they told him he needed to edit something, he could cut out the unnecessary part that he didn't need anyway, and the censors would let him keep the part that was actually offensive, because as long as they made him cut out something, they felt that they had done their job. So you can see the same line with a lot of these little trims that are being killed.
Oh my gosh.
Like a little shot or half a shot here and there, and in the end he had cut 14 things. So
my gosh, that is so stupid, and at the same time like a master play on the egos of the MPAA.
Toned down the movie, even though the goriest shots were still in the movie. There are little things that were cut, like a moment between Beatrix and the Yakuza that she later spanks with her sword, which is, really just a funny little character moment more than anything, and it's something that somewhat is repeated later on when she sees the same character again. So Tarantino was probably more willing to lose this moment than an action moment, but it's just funny when you look at it to see this tiny moment with no gore was cut while there were graphic decapitations that were left in. With several of the cuts, the shots are still in the movie, but just slightly shorter than they were before. So does that actually make any difference in terms of how gory the shot is? I would say no.
Oh my gosh. The idea of Uma Thurman having the like unchecked brute strength to literally split an entire man in half from tip to tail. Like, I don't care how sharp your sword is, that is not happening.
It's ultimately still in the movie anyway. Is the shot of the guy Go-Go disemboweled what about this shot of Sophie on the floor, which is still in the movie, but is just 17 frames shorter in the originally released version? Is it somehow not gory anymore without those 17 frames? So all these little edits haven't entirely removed any particular thing from the movie, but what they have done is disrupt the rhythm of what Tarantino had originally done and shorten moments in what was obviously intended to be a cartoonish, over-the-top blood ballet. What's ironic about how they edit things like this is that it ends up having the opposite effect of what they think it will, because that it actually ends up making the violence more palatable. They think they're making the moment when Beatrix kills this girl less upsetting by removing some footage of the girl's face, but what a change like that does is lessen the impact of a person being killed and make the violence look more glamorous and more fun. I personally think it's more immoral to show violence if you downplay the consequences, but the MPA has the opposite idea. The
And-
purpose of Tarantino going so over the
Interesting. That is very interesting. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense because I'm just thinking of, like, let's think of the whole Skullgirls situation, right? Which, for anyone who doesn't know, Skullgirls was like an amazing fighting game that came out under the leadership of Lab Zero, and then they left it. At some points, they abandoned it and they left it in the custody of, I think it's called like Volatile Studios or something like that. And they completely ruined it. They like censored it heavily. And one of the things that they censored was like the police brutality that led to Big Bang becoming the man that he is. And so just like they thought they were doing people a favor and they were doing the moral thing by downplaying police brutality, when really it's like the opposite, where by toning it down they're just making it not seem as bad as it actually is, and it's really twisted in that way. Like, I really wish that's well, I mean, as long as we're wishing, right? I wish that there's just no censorship ever at all, ever. Like, I'm one of the people you'll find that is like one of the biggest advocates of free speech, where I consider censorship to never ever be justifiable, ever, no matter what. So I mean, obviously, it'd be better if there was just no censorship at all. But the thing I was going to say was, if there's going to be censorship, I would just really wish that the people in charge of censorship would consider the implications of their actions.
the top of the geysers of blood in the movie was to make it clear that this was movie violence, not real violence. It's an exercise in visual style. The blood is paint, so your enjoyment is of the stylized spectacle more than enjoying actual human suffering. By lessening the blood geysers, what trims like these ultimately do is make it less silly and ultimately more depraved than it was originally. But like I said, in the theatrical version, they mostly got around to editing out very much of the violence, so the intent is still largely there. It's just been tampered with in these, stupid, trivial kind of ways. Most of the censored violence, of course, is in the House of Blue Leaves sequence, but there are also a few other examples. There are the scenes with Sophie and Gogo, which I've already shown, but in the anime sequence where Orin kills Matsumoto, that was also significantly altered. This one is different because instead of just trimming shots, they actually re-edited it a little bit in the originally released version, in order to still have most of the dialogue when Orin kills Matsumoto, but not show as much blood and gore. They added shots of the room and shots of Orin's face in place of shots of Matsumoto's body. There's also another moment earlier in the anime sequence that was edited, basically just removing a shot and a half to make it slightly, almost imperceptibly less violent. Like most of these changes, what was removed goes by so quickly, it's silly to think that it's necessary to remove it. But even if it's a small moment like that, it's good for it to be returned to its intended form. There is also one other change to the House of Blue Leaves sequence that is so tiny it might almost seem like it's not worth mentioning, but I said I'm going to try to make this list complete. So, with the shot where the camera follows a hatchet carrying past Beatrix's face, the shot is the same number of frames in both versions, but for whatever reason, in the black and white version, the shot starts one frame later and ends one frame later, meaning that the whole Bloody Affair version of the shot has one extra frame at the beginning and has one frame missing at the end. This is a change that's small enough that it could have just been a mistake made when assembling one of the versions. I'm not sure which of the versions. And the total length of the shot is the same, so it doesn't really change the rhythm of the
Okay.
But either way, it is a difference, even if it's only a difference Now that we're moving on from the major changes and the more famous changes, we get into some of the other stuff that I found when comparing the two versions side by side. One thing I noticed is that the title cards of the chapters and the shots immediately preceding and following them have been slightly redone. This is most noticeable with a side-by-side comparison at the end of Chapter 4 and the start of Chapter 5. For whatever reason, the outgoing shot of Chapter 4 now fades out a little earlier and is almost 2 seconds shorter than it was before, and the first shot of Chapter 5 now fades in a little more slowly, and that shot ends up being about a second shorter than it was before. I don't know why this would have been done or what the meaning of it is, but hey, I said this list would be complete, and it's a difference of, seconds. More significant
Okay.
though, is a scene that's been slightly re-edited toward the beginning of the movie. In the scene where the bride and Vernita
It has to be like a length thing where maybe the movie was too long at first, then they cut it in half, then they decided that it was too short, and that was their way of fixing that.
go into Vernita's kitchen. The scene used to play out at the beginning in an overhead shot up until the moment when Vernita hands Beatrix the dish towel. In the new version, though, Tarantino has added a few new shots showing Vernita making coffee and taking a towel from the sink and of the bride watching her. The beginning of the overhead shot has now been trimmed, and the new shots partly replace the ending of the shot. It would be speculating to say why Tarantino changed it, but I do think that it plays better now, giving you a couple more looks between the characters and establishing more clearly what Vernita is doing with the coffee cups on the counter. Either way,
Weird.
the chapter title cards being recomposited and moved 2 seconds don't really change the artistic intentions of the movie very much, and they could even just be differences that arose from the mechanical process.
Yeah, that's weird.
But something like re-editing the beginning of the kitchen scene is Tarantino.
I feel like both versions are kind of artistically valid because one of them gives you a more detailed look of what's going on, the other one just has fewer cuts and is less busy. Like they both have their merits.
So that's more interesting to analyze. The kitchen scene also isn't the only time that Tarantino re-edits something in the whole Bloody Affair version. In the second half, probably the most significant change other than removing the Volume 2 prologue is that Tarantino has re-edited and extended the whole sequence of Beatrix driving to find Esteban at the start of the last chapter. There are a whole bunch of new shots here of Beatrix driving and approaching Esteban's whorehouse, and several new shots of the prostitutes watching her as she approaches. The dissolve between 2 shots between her drive and her arrival has been moved to an earlier shot, and the shot of her car arriving, which before had that dissolve on it, has now been extended on the front. There are all these new shots and a few extended shots, but then there's also about 3 shots that have
Wow.
been shortened in the whole Bloody Affair version. So basically,
Wow.
the whole sequence up until she starts her conversation with Esteban has been rethought and reworked and re-edited. Again, I'd only be speculating as to the
It's a lot longer.
Let's give a little bit more of a build-up here, and it gives you a better impression of the long journey that people
Maybe that explains why I don't even really remember the scene from the original. It is significantly longer in the Bloody Affair, from what I can tell.
The movie could use a little breather moment there after the death of Bud and fight with Elle and all that. Showing more of the build-up and more of the other characters and the prostitutes and everything. Also, it gives more of an impression of place, and it gives you another few moments to wonder where Beatrix is going and why she's going there. Even though there are several new shots, the whole scene in total, it's only about a minute longer than it was before. So I doubt that Tarantino had wanted it this way before, but been forced to change it to save time. It just seems like at some point when Tarantino was rewatching the movie, he just decided that the movie needed a little bit of a quiet moment here and a little more build-up maybe. And, overall it's a good change, so I'm glad that he did it. The last major set of changes I'm going to talk about are changes to the end credits. For the first part of the credits where they're showing footage of the actors, that's now exactly the same as it was before. But once the credits switch to text, they've completely redone the credits, and they're now several minutes longer than they were before. Presumably this has been done because now these credits are covering the whole movie instead of just the second half of the movie, so they had a number of names that they had to add. This is presumably also the reason for changes like the Beijing now being listed.
Just to talk about that change before going to Esteban's place or whatever his name was, I do think the version of the whole Bloody Affair is better. It's longer, but it gives you a moment to sort of like mentally change rails. Like, it gives you more time to get down from the high of all the stuff going on with California Mountain Snake and all that, and then get onto the new hype that, oh my gosh, like all the other snakes are dead. The last the last thing to do is to kill Bill. Like this is it. We're moving into the grand finale.
For the Los Angeles crew, when before it was the opposite. It makes sense because I believe when the movie was shown in 2 parts, most of the things shot in Beijing were all in Volume 1. In addition to that, though, in addition to combining the credits for both halves of the movie, there's also a new section that's been added for the people who worked on the whole Bloody Affair version of the movie. But that section is included after where the credits ended before they ended with an outtake of Uma Thurman filming the eye-plucking moment from the House of Blue Leaves sequence. That outtake is still there, but now after it, there are more credits. So I think that with that, I've covered just about every change between the different versions of the movie. The end result, with all the additions and subtractions and information included, is the movie is now 4 hours
David B. Barron is an awesome name.
and 13 minutes, whereas before Volume 1 and Volume 2 added up to 4 hours and 8 minutes. But I think that altogether those changes make for a substantially different and ultimately better experience. I'd also add here,
Agreed.
this is of course yet another example of an artist going back and extensively changing something he made from how it was initially released, which of course Star Wars fans think is bizarre and unacceptable when George Lucas does it, but which is in fact extremely common in the arts. But you know, that's a subject to get into in another video.
People die along the way. It's about that kind of thing. Now, tell me this.
Innocent people die along the way because unfortunately, that's the story of revenge. Revenge is messy. It never works out the way you want it.
Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Jan. Get it?
Oh, really? Okay, I'd like to see you walk down the street and get attacked by some kids who've just seen your
But
movie.
you saw me. See, Jan, you're all messed up
Okay.
because you're talking about real life.
Oh,
and
I
I'm
see. And
talking
kids
about
at
the
12,
movies. You gotta
kids
get
at
it
12.
straight. Now, if you want to talk about the movies, we'll talk about the movies.
Okay, and
If you
kids
want to
at
talk about
12
real life,
can tell
we'll
the
talk about real life.
Okay. That was an interesting little bonus. Yo, Quentin Tarantino's kind of awesome. Like that little like interview, red like shouting match, like that tells me a lot about Quentin Tarantino's character that I like. I actually don't know a lot about the guy, except that he likes feet, but I really like the way he handled himself in that interview. Okay, the last thing I want to check out before we close things out today is this little this little pilot that came out recently. It is the Street Cats pilot from Game Boy Cat. It came out 2 weeks ago. It's only like a little over 6 minutes long, so I thought I'd go ahead and give that a spin. Hopefully, it doesn't have any like copyrighted music in it. So I guess we'll find out. I think I'm kind of tempted to turn the opacity off for this one because I want to show it in all its glory. I have not seen this at all, but the art style interested me. So we're just going to dive into it. I'm absolutely vibing with the character design. I'm vibing with the colors. I'm vibing with the like 70s Hanna-Barbera kind of energy that I'm getting from this. Like already, we're not even 10 seconds in, and I'm into this. Street Cats. Game, Rocks, Blitz, and Shank. By Game Boy Cat. A GB Cat Productions. All right. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And this is very clearly not 70s. Like, it's not trying that hard to look like it's from the 70s, but it takes... It's like a fusion. It takes more modern character design cues and presents them in a very 70s sort of way. The arrangement of facial features is kind of interesting, though. It's a bit of a Bushism. Butchism, I should say. To just kind of have the nose floating off, like the nose and the mouth are just floating off to the side of the face with no clear bridge connecting the tip of the nose to the brow. It's very interesting.
Hey, Shank. Hey, Shank. Shank, I'm hungry.
We'll go ahead and munch my guitar then. and you can write a song about it.
Mate, I hear you. What do you want to eat then?
Hey, can we go for fish and chips?
Fish and chips? Who here likes fish and chips?
Game loves fish and chips.
Hey, wait a minute. No, I don't.
Game loves fish and chips.
I was not expecting the British accents, but I love them.
Everyone raise hand in favour of fish and chips. Rocks? Blitz? Game? Alright then, fish and chips it is.
Boss.
Fish is good for you, you know? Rich in calcium. A good source of vitamin C and iron.
Oh my gosh, what is the voice quality on this? What's this character's name again? Was it like Zone or something? His voice quality is terrible.
What did I do?
Because I wanted to go to a country buffet. Now y'all worried about that daggone seafood. Fox knows I don't like seafood.
Okay.
Rocks.
Hey, but that's a bit ironic for you, isn't it, lad?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, you eat all the food you see.
Oh, that is not a British accent. That is like a Scottish accent.
That's a good one.
That wasn't even funny.
Love the sound effects though.
Ooh, it'll feel that tomorrow.
Ah, daggone it.
I can't take you lot anywhere no more.
Hey, sharing's caring, you know.
No, it's not. Let's get you wrong.
Okay, if you're free, don't shut up and behave. I'm gonna take this bloody car and ram it into it!
Alright, let's see here. We got reckless driving, driving with no seatbelt, destruction of public property and resisting arrest. What other charges are you lads aiming for next?
Can't possibly be any more daft than that.
Yeah, might as well get charged with something like a DEI.
DUI.
Yeah, good thing we don't drink. Wait a minute.
Ooh, what have we here? Possession of not one, but two opened containers of alcohol in the vehicle. Well, congratulations, boys. You passed the exam.
D-U... Ow! I almost had it that time. I gotta start all over. D-U-E... Oh, the daggone heck with it.
Oh, please don't tell me this is copywritten. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on, I gotta do this. I gotta turn on the filters. Oh my gosh, those are tails. I did not interpret those as tails when I first saw them. I thought something freaky was going on. Yeah, this is groovy. The harmonica is such a nice touch. Oh my gosh, that was super cute. I mean, I didn't think it was terribly funny. It was like mildly amusing, but I don't know. There was just something about that was like really warm and cozy. I actually really liked it, even though it wasn't very funny. And I dig the music too. Like, it's just a vibe. Game Boy Cat even gave him like gave himself a cute little ident. Yeah, that was fire. That was actually really good. So, yeah, I dig that. So, before we close things out, one thing I wanted to do was just I wanted to get in the habit of like checking the YouTube homepage and checking my recommendations before I close stream out, because I always feel like the moment I close stream and I just spend the rest of the day vegging out on YouTube is the moment when like something epic drops that I wish I had talked about on stream, but I couldn't. But no, nothing's really going on. So that'll do it for this stream. It had a lot of fun. I enjoyed the videos. I enjoyed the latest One Piece chapter, and I'm looking forward to coming back May 10th, maybe. It's not really a surefire thing. Golden Week is like really weird with how it affects the release of One Piece and Shonen Jump in general. So I'm kind of trying to keep my finger on the pulse of that going forward. But for now, I'm planning on not coming back until the 10th. So we'll be on a little break, which I could really use because it is really tough right now. Folks who know me know that I work in education, and I am in the infamous, like fourth quarter slog, where I mean, you know how they say it's always darkest just before dawn. The last 7 weeks of any given school year is almost always this just agonizing trudge where there are no more holidays, there are no more teacher work days, there are no more like professional learning days. It is just school, 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 school. You've got your weekends, but that's all you got. And so that's it's rough. It's really rough and monotonous, and just, it's rough. So I'm in the midst of that. I mean, we're not even halfway through. We've still got like a full month before summer vacation, and then after that, I've got like even more obligations. Cause my parents are actually moving out of town, and so that's going to be a major change. My parents have been like a big part of my life well into my adulthood. We've always been very close, and now like our relationship is going to be very different with all that physical space in between us. And it'll be interesting to see what that's like going forward, especially how it impacts the channel. But yeah, and they're taking the cats with them. Obviously, they're not leaving them with me. So it'll be, I imagine it'll be a lot more free time and less distractions to just do what I want to do. And there'll be some heartache, I'll be a little lonelier here in town. But I'll make the best of it. But yeah, one more time, just plan on us coming back, Sunday about the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. If there are any changes in the schedule, best way to find out about it is to just keep up with all my socials down here. If you had to pick one to keep up with, because I know it's a lot to keep up with Facebook and Insta and Discord. If you had to pick one, I'd probably go with Twitter, just because it's the easiest to manage. And even though I have a Discord, I went through all the trouble of setting up my own Discord. It's always I hate to admit this, but it's usually the one that's the last on my mind. I have a really bad habit of not updating my Discord. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for joining me today. Because all your support means a lot to me. Because every view, like, comment, follow, subscription, it all helps push us on to bigger and better things. And yeah, I wonder what I'm gonna do for next stream. I've been on a bit of like a Scott Pilgrim kick lately, and I only just recently remembered that Scott Pilgrim EX came out like a few months ago, so might have to crack that open, because I'm pretty embarrassed to admit that was a game that I very hotly anticipated, and then it just totally slipped my mind that it happened. So we'll see. We'll see. Folks who know me also know that I've been trying to get some troubleshooting done with my computer, because there are certain games that it has trouble booting up. Chiefly Psychonauts 2, which was a game that I anticipated even more, and I tried to play it like a couple of years ago and it just wouldn't boot, and I haven't really had the opportunity to fix it. Life has just been comboing me nonstop, and now my local tech guy is suffering from serious nervous damage, to where he's having a hard time helping anybody. So, and I don't mean to make it about me. It's obviously it's not any more tragic for anyone else than it is for him that he is suffering through this. Prayers go to him. But I mean, obviously that does impact my plans, because I was really hoping to be playing Psychonauts 2 a lot earlier than this. But I'm rambling at this point, so I'm just going to go ahead and close it up now. Look forward to seeing you guys in a couple weeks with hopefully a new One Piece chapter and maybe a new game that we can play. And I don't know what else beyond that. I'll try and do some brainstorming, but yeah, that'll do it for today. And thanks for checking us out. You all have a good day and good nights, good week, good next week, and I'll see you guys around. Catch you later. First though, you gotta. Oh, whatever. I'll figure it out. Have a good night.